Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. At the beginning, I swung my sword 1,000,000 times, and I shocked the whole school. Chapter 1. Are you playing with a sword, boy? When you were a student, did you ever imagine that one day you would become the sword bearer in this world? Think about it. Since I've thought about it, then you don't want to mess around, sleepy. Get up and swing your sword. Lin Tien, who was soundly asleep, suddenly woke up, jumped up, and shouted, I know. Immediately, the whole class was silent. All the students who were listening to the class looked behind them one after another. Puff! In the next second, many students couldn't help laughing out loud. Li Yanfang, a middle-aged female teacher standing in front of the podium, had a gloomy face, and the chalk in her hand fell to the ground with a thud. Over. Something is wrong. Seeing this, some students immediately withdrew their smiling faces and sat upright obediently. Lin Tien, you want to rebel. Stuntling, can you still read this book? Since you know, so tyrannical, then tell me, what did I just say? Li Yanfang adjusted her glasses, gritted her teeth and said. Lin Tien blinked his big confused eyes, scratched his head, his face was full of question marks, I don't know. Click, the white chalk was pinched and broken. You, no, Dao, the voice was almost squeezed out bit by bit from between the teeth. You don't know what you're calling. You are giving a lecture, and you clicked your throat. Co-authored, were you possessed by a ghost just now, or were you controlled by Fatty Blue's spiritual props? Li Yanfang breathed a sigh of relief, suppressing the anger in her heart. Let's continue the lecture, and don't let a mouse poop ruin the whole pot of porridge. Come on, this question. Sit back in the chair. Lin Tien leaned on his arm, and drifted out of the window without paying attention. Sometimes I pay attention to the blue sky, sometimes I pay attention to the shiny bald head of the dean, and sometimes I think about what I will eat next year. Anyway, just don't listen to the class. But it's not his fault. Who made me have lofty ideals and ambitions? Hey yo. My hands are sore. Lin Tien shook his right hand, forgetting that this hand just finished exercising yesterday. In fact, the left hand did it too. After all, this kind of thing needs two hands to do it together. After a few hours at a time, it lasts for 7 days, and anyone who does it will feel sore. Of course, not as you think. Come on, let's go. Exon, he is a time traveler. Traveled to this parallel world 18 years ago and became an orphan who grew up in an orphanage. Fortunately, when he was 6 years old, he was adopted by a kind single uncle. At the same time, a week ago, he also awakened a system called Sword Holder. As the name suggests, it is related to swords. Get stronger just by swinging your sword. For the convenience of swinging the sword, the system also gave him an ordinary wooden sword. Therefore, this wooden sword should of course become his awakening object. And at that moment, he became an artificial, innate awakener. P.S. The strength of the awakened is divided into ranks 1 to 9. Awakened is a unique profession in this world. Those who can suddenly acquire some unknown ability in a certain period of time are called innate awakeners. Such people usually have high talent and strength ceilings. There is also a class of people who find that they cannot acquire abilities on their own, so they use the awakening stone as a medium, and they are called acquired awakeners. Lin Tien is in a special situation. Instead of relying on the awakening stone, he relied on his own efforts to let the system help him awaken. It's all done by yourself, regardless of you or me, it's naturally innate. As an awakened person, he became a member of the Night Watch division of Tian City, very smoothly, in his city. Substitute. For no other reason. As an innately awakened person, the supposedly strong awakened object is a useless wooden sword. However, relying on his tenacious perseverance, he passed the initial substitute assessment. He also wanted to become a regular employee, but neither his captain nor perseverance agreed. No way. If you are not strong enough, if you forcefully become a full-time employee, your life will be in danger if you perform tasks beyond your capabilities. It's also considered for him. As for what this night watchman is, Lin Tien's evaluation is a simple organization. When the gods recover, the alien species will be in chaos. As a night watchman, watch the night for the sky and protect the lights of thousands of families. This is the purpose of the Night Watch division. Is not it simple? Is there a sense of déjà vu of juvenile hot-blooded comics? And the way Lin Tien wanted to become stronger was also mentioned above. Swing the sword. At least so far. It sounds simple, but in practice it is extremely difficult. The swing of the sword required by the system is not just a casual swing. Not only is the sword wielder's waist and horse required to be in one, but the movements must be in place without any slight differences. Even strength and momentum are equally demanding. So much so that Lin Tien swung his sword hundreds or thousands of times every day for a week, and only 78 times met the system standards. Damn it. The most important thing is that the reward given by swinging the sword once is too small. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. I need you to remind me. You just want to make me angry, right? Who are you releasing to provoke? If you have the ability, come out and single out. Even though Lin Tien is angry and helpless in his heart, this is the reality. The reward for swinging the sword once is just a wisp of sword energy. How pitiful. It's not that he dislikes the weak sword spirit. Mainly, this ray of light is given to you by the system according to your own desires. Lin Tien closed his eyes and carefully felt the sword energy that was accumulated 78 times in his body. Yeah, V. It's finally as thick as a enoki mushroom. Lin Tien. The total of 78 rays of sword energy is just this much. If I really want to swing a whole sword energy, I might not have to swing it tens of thousands of times. The phone rings. Feeling the vibration in his trouser pocket, Lin Tien took out his Bluetooth headset, connected it and put it on his ears. He glanced at Li Yanmei who was giving a lecture and whispered, "What's the matter, Sister Ching?" So quietly. "Are you in class?" On the other end of the phone, the girl called Sister Ching murmured softly, "Forget it, I'll leave it to others to handle, and you can go to class." Wait a moment. When Lin Tien heard that there was a mission, he immediately became energetic and said, "No, Sister Ching, you know. I am an extremely outstanding student. My studies have reached a bottleneck. I have this time to devote myself to my country. It is my duty to kill the aliens. The mission is finally here. This is a good opportunity to become a regular employee." He trained hard for 7 days just to get there today. Sister Ching was obviously hesitant. "Okay, Sister Ching, I don't want to miss this once in a lifetime opportunity. You have to let me prove myself." Oh well. Under Lin Tien's hard words, Sister Ching chose to compromise. "Gather at the base within 10 minutes. Receive." Hang up the phone. Lin Tien stood up resolutely. For Daxia and the people, what does this personal sacrifice mean? It's okay not to listen to this lesson. What else? Li Yanmei frowned and looked at Lin Tien. God knows what trouble the other party is going to make. My great-grandfather passed away today, so take the first step. Finished. Under everyone's shocked eyes, Lin Tien picked up the wooden sword wrapped in cloth. Rushed out of the classroom. Damn it, if you skipped class in front of my sister Fang, Lin Tien must have taken the wrong medicine today. When did Lin Tien become so brave? I also wanted to. But I don't have the courage, so I suddenly felt a little envious. His great-grandfather passed away. No, how could I remember that Lin Tien only had one uncle? Where did the great-grandfather come from? They must have been called out by someone. I heard Lin Tien calling from behind just now. His voice was very low. He seemed to be talking about foot washing. Li Yanfang was stunned seeing this scene. He has taught for more than 20 years. It was the first time a student dared to skip her class. He still escaped in front of her in the middle of the journey. This is the biggest stain on her teaching experience. In the classroom, all the students looked out the window at the playground. Without him, Lin Tien ran on it. He was holding a long and thin object in his hand. Because it was tightly wrapped in a long strip of cloth, no one knew what it was. Crap, wipe, when did Lin Tien get so good at sports and pick up something so quickly in his hand? No, Lin Tien is under siege. The dean takes the lead in attacking, plus 3 guards. Come on, for our youth. Lin Tien, go for it. Many boys were gritting their teeth and clenching their fists at this moment, secretly cheering Lin Tien up in their hearts. I'm going to be caught soon, Lin Tien. We can't fall down there, take our dreams and rush out, there are stars and see outside the door. That's something I want to do but don't dare to do in my life. In that case, it's up to you to do it for us, come on. No, the doorman has moved. It's over. Even the guard took action. The exit was blocked by the retractable door. As the doorman pressed the remote control button, the retractable door slowly extended until it completely blocked the exit. It's over. Can't get out. The young eagle with a dream was finally broken on the edge of the cliff. Just when they thought Lin Tien had no way to escape, his plan to leave school failed. Lin Tien used his feet fiercely, and in front of everyone, he leapt 2 meters high, directly across the retractable door, and finally landed safely in a handsome posture. There is no sloppiness in the action, and it is done in one go. Lin Tien turned his head, put his index and middle fingers together, and saluted everyone behind him. Director, I'm just going to ask for a leave. Please approve the leave, and I'll leave first. Watching Lin Tien leave successfully. In the class, everyone was subconsciously amazed. I give full marks to this one. Did you see the last move? It's so elegant. It's so elegant. When did Lin Tien become so handsome? I hate it. I hate that I don't have the courage. The retractable door is over 1 meter high, and he is holding something in his hand. When did Lin Tien become an athlete? I just heard that when someone was going to the toilet between classes, they saw Lin Tien standing on the top of the building wielding a sword by himself. Boom! The blackboard was hammered, and Li Yanfang's anger reached its peak. The class suddenly fell silent. There is no cure. I can't control it anymore. Let his family take care of it. Tien City, Red Moon Office. Lin Tien raised his head and glanced at these 5 eye-catching characters. It might look better during the day, but at night, the bright red lights sway like blood. Those who knew it was an office, but those who didn't thought it was a funeral home. But at the same time, this is also the base of his night patrol team. On weekdays, he makes a living by receiving various cases. There are very few murder cases. Most of them are looking for cats and dogs, and occasionally following suspicious mistresses. Push the door open and enter. Ding dong. Welcome to Red Moon. Jia. Lin Tien, what kind of person made the entrance bell like this? Sister Cheng, you always say that no one comes to the store, but you make things worse. Lin Tien complained to the inside of the office. It's called a trend, you don't understand. While speaking, a girl in her early 20s stretched her waist. She had a clean and fair face with firm skin and delicate features, except her eyes were dull and had thick dark circles. Wearing cat ear earphones and a loose white bear pajamas, she looked like a girl addicted to the internet. This person is the vice captain of the Red Moon team, Yang Cheng, a second-level awakener of the Supernatural Power Department, and the awakened object is ice. Sister Cheng, are you staying up all night again? After chasing it all night, my back hurts like hell. I want to buy the space capsule all-in-one gaming chair that has been super popular recently, but unfortunately the captain won't reimburse me. Yang Cheng complained, and then said seriously, okay, let's get back to business. You have been on the bench for 6 days. Aha. Lin Tien nodded expectantly. Considering that your awakened object is a wooden sword, actual combat may be a bit dangerous, so you are not allowed to participate in many missions, but this time is different. Yang Cheng pointed to the city plan behind her. In Nanchang District, there have been alien species appearing recently, and their behavior has not caused casualties so far. Visually, the level of the alien species will not exceed E level. It's just a good time for you to deal with it. P.S. Different grades. S, A, B, C, D, E. Yang Cheng yelled, with your innate factors, you actually couldn't even pass the initial test, but, you understand, and this is the second test given to you by the department. If you pass, you stayed in the team and basically didn't run. But if it fails, don't worry, Miss Cheng. Lin Tien interrupted. Although my awakened object is a wooden sword, I can still deal with an E-level alien species without any problem. Sister Cheng was taken aback for a moment, then nodded, I like you. After speaking, she handed Lin Tien an instrument similar to a pocket watch. This is a forbidden item and can be used to search for nearby alien species. Okay, Lin Tien nodded, and put the forbidden watch into his pocket. By the way, Sister Cheng, where are the captain and the others? In today's office, it seems that Sister Ching is the only one. I don't know what's going on recently. Alien species appear frequently. The Tien Night Watch Division called them to a meeting. I will stay and watch the store. Lin Tien nods. No wonder Sister Ching stayed up all night. It turned out that the captain had gone to a meeting. As far as he knew, in order to prevent Yang Ching from playing computer games in the middle of the night, the team leader unplugged the network cable on time at 9 p.m. Before leaving, Yang Ching did not forget to remind, "Don't forget to cover your face." The Night Watch Division is considered a semi-secret organization in the world. The powerful can more or less understand a little bit. After all, the alien species had caused disasters to the world decades ago. At that time, people were panicked, otherwise there would be no awakeners and night watchmen. It's not that people are not allowed to fight in public. The premise is to avoid casualties. Slightly stronger heterogeneous species will also have corresponding space-type forbidden objects. Enter another space within a certain range to fight with alien species, while the outside world is not affected. But it may be very troublesome after being exposed. For example, there will be reporters following. Even if the upper echelons of the night watchmen come forward, it will not be easy. So now most night watchmen choose to cover their faces when they go out on missions. Flick off your clothes when it's over, and hide your merit and fame deeply. Not only can he pretend to be aggressive, but he can also add a sense of mystery to the night watchman. Why not do it? Outside the office, Lin Tien held a wooden sword in his hand, and took out a pure white funny face mask from his waist with a solemn expression. E-level alien species, the danger is about the same as a mad bear. Forget it. In 7 days, he swung the sword more than 10,000 times, and obtained a total of 78 wisps of sword energy. You can do it today. Show results. Tien City, Nanchang District. A pink piglet, Peppa Pig, slowly poked her head out of the shadows. There seemed to be countless worms floating in his eyes, and the thick black liquid turned into tentacles and seeped out from the face, which was extremely disgusting. It opened its bloody mouth full of fangs and stared at the passing humans. There were many pedestrians around, unaware of the impending danger. At this time, a little boy playing in the park seemed to have discovered this unique existence, and walked up curiously. In an instant, the ferocious pig Peppa turned back to its cute appearance. "Mom, I just saw black water coming out of this little pig's face." The little boy shouted excitedly, pointing at the alien pig with his other hand. His mother seemed to be chatting with an acquaintance there, and said casually, "You are just blinded. Why are there pigs in the park?" "It's obviously there," the little boy muttered, squatting down and looking at the strange alien pig. "Wow, it's actually wearing a pink skirt." "Humph," the alien pig snorted, but inside he was grinning. "Yes, come close to me like this. I'm going to tear your head apart without you being prepared." The screams of humans must be wonderful by then. Only the sound of tearing fabric was heard. Looking at the little boy's hand, there was already a torn pink miniskirt. Alien pig. Where are my clothes? Human children are so sick. Why are you tearing my clothes off? Damn it, Jia Yi died before leaving the army. Although the dignified aliens are the weakest, they still have dignity. Human child, I'm going to chew you into a pulp. The alien pig no longer hides and wants to return to its original shape, killing the human child in front of him. Suddenly, a huge force suddenly emerged from behind it, and then its limbs lifted off the ground, and its entire body was lifted up. What's going on with this feeling of weightlessness? Then, let's go. Lin Tien shouted low and threw the alien pig out like a cannonball with his right hand. Little boy, it's okay, little kid, big brother will protect you. The little boy was confused at this time. He raised his head and saw the white funny mask. Woo. Mom, there was a strange squid bullying my piggy, and he threw it away. The little boy was frightened and cried, wiping his tears, and ran away. Lin Tien, not a buddy, you can do whatever you want at the age of 5. I watched you tear off someone's clothes. Why are you running? Let's make it clear. Speechless, Lin Tien ignored it and looked at the alien pig not far away, which he had thrown several hundred meters away. It was flying back at a speed of 3 bolts per second. Hey, I quite hold a grudge. Lin Tien looked into the distance and sighed from time to time. But when did my strength become so strong? He had already discovered it when he jumped over the retractable door. Normally it would be strenuous to run 100 meters, but now he not only jumps 2 meters high, but his strength is comparable to that of a shot putter. Due to the host's ignorance, this system will reluctantly give you the answer. Close black lens bracket. No need. Open black lens bracket. You have to use it even if you don't need it. Close black lens bracket. I don't. %%. Just tell me. If you don't listen, I will blow myself up and die in front of you. Close black lens bracket. Okay, let me listen. Isn't it okay if I listen? Lin Tien shook his head and sighed. No way. The system that you have awakened has to be pampered no matter how willful you are. HMPH, the sword energy you get by swinging the sword is separated from Xiaoyao sword intent. Just one strand can cut iron like mud. Not only that, every strand of sword energy can be tempered invisibly. Your bones. Close black lens bracket. Now, you have accumulated 78 rays of sword energy, and your physical fitness is not weaker than temptation. Close black lens bracket. So awesome. Lin Tien's eyes lit up. Could it be that he mistook the system before? No wonder the standards for completing sword swings are so strict. I knew, system, that you loved me. Boom. At this moment, the alien pig rushed in front of Lin Tien. Its thin body swelled dozens of times in an instant, its body squirmed with disgusting mucus, roared and bit Lin Tien. The alien species appeared, and the park suddenly became chaotic. Human, kill you. Can it still deform? After all, this is his first time fighting an alien. I didn't expect that only E-level aliens would look so fierce. Seeing that the fangs are very close to the door, Lin Tien didn't move his feet, but exerted strength with his right hand, and the cloth wrapped around the wooden sword split instantly, and then he slashed out with a sword. No fancy sword skills. There is no modeled sword shadow. Just a swing of the sword as usual. Sword rises, sword falls. Unpretentious. Next second. Before the alien pig had time to react, its body had already been cut in half, turning into a puddle of black muddy water in astonishment. Instant kill with one sword. The speed was so fast that some passers-by did not realize what was happening. Some screamed and just ran out a few steps and looked back. Oh shit, finished. Without further ado, he picked up his phone and took a picture. Lin Tien stood on the spot, and after a long time he raised the wooden sword in his hand, flicked it lightly, and threw off the black blood on the sword. After rewrapping with cloth strips, he left the place. Someone wanted to catch up, but found that the person had disappeared. In an alley, Lin Tien took off his mask, and the shocked look on his face was clearly visible. I rely on. It's so strong. Maybe his grandma's is too outrageous. He really just swung the sword as usual, following the system's requirements. That's all. The reason why he didn't move just now was not because he wanted to pretend. It was really just a shock. For the first time to kill an E-level alien species, get a reward, 100 wisps of sword chi. Close black lens bracket. 100 wisps. After being amazed, Lin Tien suddenly felt the sword energy in the pinch of Flamulina volutips in his body double in size. He lowered his head and lifted the clothes off. As expected. As the 100 wisps of sword energy entered the body, the muscle lines on his body became more and more obvious. 6-pack abs turned into 8-pack in seconds. He has been a muscular man ever since. The other side. Inside the Red Moon office. Yang Qing was eating potato chips with relish, leaning on the chair with her feet up and watching the hot-blooded drama on the computer. The phone beeps. Yang Qing picked up the phone and took a look, and then, was completely shocked. Real or fake? In the video, a boy dressed in white and wearing a funny mask easily killed a violent alien with a wooden sword. Afterwards, he swung his sword and left, extremely chic. This is Lin Tien. Yang Qing patted her face hard a few times, her eyes were full of disbelief. Damn, what's the matter with this kid? It's so handsome. She recognized the funny face mask. Because when Lin Tien chose this mask, she also said that he had no taste. But now it seems that there is still something hey. It's just, when did he become so strong? Yang Qing murmured. Could it be that he had been hiding all this time? Although that pink Pepe is only the weakest E-rank alien. But if he wanted to kill him instantly in a berserk state, he still used a wooden sword. The difficulty can be imagined. Forget it, let's leave it to that person. Yang Qing ate most of the bag of potato chips in one go, then saved the video and sent it out. After all, that person only needs one sentence. Even if Lin Tien is an idiot, he can enter the night watch division smoothly. Back to the neighborhood. Take the elevator and stand at the door. Lin Tien took out the key and was about to open the door, but found that the door was opened before him. Walking into the house and closing the door, a middle-aged man was already sitting on the sofa, looking at him seriously. Uncle Wong, why are you back? It's on strike, there are too many documents, and I will give myself 2 days off. Uncle Wong waved his hand and paused. This video, is it really you? As he spoke, he took out his mobile phone and played the video of Lin Tien beheading alien species with a sword in the park. It was the one sent by Yang Qing. What's the matter, Uncle Wong? This is indeed me. Lin Tien answered truthfully without any hesitation. For the person in front of him who had adopted him for 18 years, he didn't need to hide anything. If you want to hide it, you can't hide it. The reason is simple. Because Uncle Wong is also a night watchman, and his weight is scary in the entire night watch department. Wang Yangshi, one of the 3 speakers at the headquarters of the night watch department in Kyoto. More heavyweights are yet to come. As far as Lin Tien knows, Uncle Wong is still a 7th order awakener. Looking at Daxia, there are very few existences at the 6th level, let alone the 7th level. To put it bluntly, whether he can enter the night watch department is a matter of the other party's words. Wang Yangshi looked solemn, stared at Lin Tien for a long time, and asked in a daze, how many levels of awakened are you? Level 1. Are you on drugs? What? Lin Tien was dumbfounded. What are you saying? What are you talking about? What do you mean you are addicted to drugs? You are so strong that you can kill him with a sword. Cough cough, come and sit. Wang Yangshi swallowed awkwardly. How can I remember? 7 days ago, your wooden sword was still not lethal at all. Why did it suddenly become fierce today? A week ago. He handles cases in Kyoto. Suddenly I heard that my little Tien has become an innate awakener. For this reason, he specially opened 2 bottles of beer to celebrate a little. I didn't hear about it until I was half drunk. After the kid woke up, he excitedly ran to the branch to take part in the assessment, but he was judged as unqualified within 30 minutes. Ask what's going on. Good guy, the whole post is full of red, times, s. Physical strength times, will times, speed times, power times, potential times. There were 5 assessments in total, none of which were passed. But after all, he is an innate awakener. Considering that the night watchman has been around for so long, there has never been a single case of an innately awakened person pulling their hips in the late stage. See also Lin Tien as his adopted nephew. Just, small, you get the idea. Let him become a substitute for the night watch division team. Speaking of which, today's task was arranged by him. The purpose is to see what Lin Tien's potential is. If you fail today, he didn't mind letting Lin Tien give up his identity as a night watchman and become an ordinary person. Then use a little magic, go through the back door, let him go to the most amazing university in Daxia and learn some skills. But judging from the current situation, he seems to have made the right bet. That being the case, passed the 2nd test successfully. So, the 3rd test. Start now. Wang Yangshi suddenly put a hand on Lin Tien's shoulder. His eyes were as calm as water. Little Tien, why do you want to be a night watchman? Why? Lin Tien was stunned. He knew that this was also part of the assessment. I just didn't expect that Uncle Wong would come to ask in person. That's right. After all, whether you can enter or not is a matter of one sentence. Why don't you answer perfectly on purpose? Forget it. This kind of question, shouldn't it just come from your heart? Quote. Uncle Wong, I'm telling you the truth. Lin Tien rubbed the back of his head and smiled out of place. I imagined in junior high school that I would become a swordsman, become the world's best swordsman, and finally pretend to be Bo Dobby in front of my classmates. One person, one sword, is the whole rivers and lakes. There was also blood in my heart, thinking of dying for the country and becoming a hero. Now, my awakening object is a wooden sword. It may be weak now, but it may not be in the future. Lin Tien's expression became serious. It's like I'm just holding a sword now, and I haven't become the sword in this world, people. But later it will be. Wang Yangshi's expression did not change, and he continued, you should know that becoming a night watchman is not based on some childhood dream, nor is it your so-called enthusiasm, and it is not for pretending. What is the purpose of the Night Watch Division? Do you remember? Watch the night for the sky, protect the lights of thousands of families. Lin Tien replied. Wang Yangshi nodded, but do you know what's next? Next, Lin Tien shook his head dumbly. When the dark night falls, those who watch the night should watch the night for the sky and protect the lights of all families. But if it really comes to that critical moment, what appeared in front of you was endless darkness, hundreds of millions of alien species gushing out of the abyss, but behind you there were hundreds of millions of bright lights. And what are you supposed to do? Lin Tien showed a tangled look. What should I do? Wang Yangshi's eyes were firm, and he said word by word, at that time, we will burn ourselves out and become the last ray of fire in the darkness. Go and lead the lights of the thousands of families I guard, walk out of the darkness, and welcome the dawn. Wang Yangshi sighed, it's not difficult to become a night watchman, but it's difficult to fulfill the responsibility on your shoulders. I have seen too many night watchmen. They stood under the red sun and recited the night watchman's precepts loudly, but in the end, some of them died, some fled, and some rebelled. Being a night watchman doesn't require him to be righteous. I just hope that when the real crisis comes, he will not fall into trouble and become like a lackey who survives in some cracks, that's all. Lin Tien was stunned. So, do you still want to be a night watchman? Wang Yangshi asked. Do you guard the lights of thousands of families behind you? With eyes closed, Lin Tien seemed to see himself holding a long sword in the future, piercing the sky. I also saw countless night watchmen who resolutely chose to run in the opposite direction in the face of danger. Their eyes were firm, and they were fighting against alien species with blood stained in front of them. They are true loners. Be unpaid heroes. No. Get paid. Keeping the lights guarded behind him bright all the time is the greatest reward for a night watchman. Therefore, I would rather give my life. Therefore, I am willing to block life and death, and step into the darkness to seek the final dawn. Answer me. Wang Yangshi looked terrified. Think about it. Lin Tien laughed far-fetchedly, because he already had his own thoughts in his heart. I want to be a hero. I want to stand on the top of the clouds, watching the lights of thousands of families in great awe. Even if you are destined to die. Even if you are destined to die. Lin Tien repeated, but his tone was very calm. But, I can't be that selfless. I just want to do my best to fulfill the duty of night watchman. If that day really comes, I think I will still pick up the sword in my hand, follow my heart, and protect the person I should protect. All right. Wang Yangshi exhaled a turbid breath, and a smile finally appeared on his solemn face. Congratulations, Xiaotian, for becoming a real night watchman. Lin Tien was taken aback for a moment, and asked in confusion, don't you need to sign a formal contract, get your fingerprints on it? Why are you making such trouble? Wang Yangshi waved his hand and smiled crookedly, it's about a phone call. Quote. As expected of Uncle Wong. Serious when serious. It's really easy to get up casually. Okay. Wang Yangshi patted Lin Tien's shoulder lightly. Uncle Wong, I have to go back to the imperial capital. So fast. Yes. Wang Yangshi was quite helpless, with a trace of fatigue showing in the corners of his eyes. Recently, there have been too many alien activities, and the abyss plane has appeared in the present world on a large scale. I have a hunch that the crisis belonging to Daxia is coming. After speaking, Wang Yangshi lit a cigarette and puffed out the clouds. Uncle Wong, goodbye. Don't think about it. Uncle Wong will definitely accompany you to celebrate the new year this year. Good. After Uncle Wong left, Lin Tien sat on the sofa and did not move for a long time. His eyes were full of disbelief. Below him, that is, in the lower right corner of the system, there is an extra line of fonts at some point. 15-day countdown to the recovery of the gods. The gods revive. Lin Tien's eyes were full of disbelief. He didn't understand why such a prompt suddenly appeared on the system interface. Obviously it didn't exist before. It seemed that just after he killed the first alien species and passed Uncle Wang's test, he became a real night watchman. This prompt is worthy of appearing on the panel. Countdown to 15 days. Lin Tien's eyes were deep set, and as he looked at the short half-month period that followed, his mood became heavier and heavier. He didn't know what kind of creature this so-called god was. But just the name, it sounds like a stronger existence than ordinary alien species. If it is them, what kind of posture should they come in? After recovery, what attitude should be towards Daxia? Friend or foe? Unknown. Even in the last life, gods were still fantasies in people's minds, illusory and unknown existences. Could it be that this is the crisis that Uncle Wong said? Lin Tien murmured to himself. If so, wouldn't the warning 15 days in advance mean that the system wanted him to be Daxia's savior? The awesomeness just blown off the front foot, I didn't expect it to come true so soon. The blood faded in an instant, replaced by calmness and sobriety like stagnant water. Lin Tien is thinking, if the gods are revived, their purpose is to bring down the end for mankind. At that time, when he is the only one who can stand up, what should he do? And his answer was revealed earlier in the conversation with Uncle Wong just now. Just like the name of this system. Sword Bearer. Hold the sword of the world and protect the misty people. Or maybe, hold on to the sword you desire in your heart, and protect the person you want to protect. After all, just like what Uncle Wong said, there are really too few people who are truly righteous. How many people can give their lives for those strangers who have never met when the real danger comes? Don't expect to be a saint who saves the world, just protect the people you want to protect. Think here. Lin Tien breathed a sigh of relief. He stood up and took off his shirt, revealing his muscular tendons and 8-pack abs. Then he picked up the wooden sword that was placed aside and swung it forward. Practice your sword. The sound of cracking the air echoed in the room. In 15 days, he grew enough to rival the gods. It might not have been possible if it had been someone else. But Lin Tien is different. I'm in trouble. Others may never be able to reach the second level in their lifetime after becoming awakened. All he had to do was swing the sword. Keep swinging your sword. Even if the gods are powerful enough to dominate this world. Now he is just an insignificant ant in the eyes of the gods. But as long as he keeps swinging his sword, 10 times, 100 times, if it doesn't work, just 1,000 times. If 1,000 times is not enough, then swing it 10,000 times. 100,000 times. 1,000,000 times. Thousands of times. As long as Lin Tien is still alive, as long as he can still swing the sword in his hand downwards. One day, I can rival or even surpass the gods. Finally realized, kill the god. Lin Tien's eyes flashed with determination. Holding the wooden sword with both hands, he swung it down again and again without getting tired of it. The not-so-sharp sword blade was shining with sword light at the moment. The sound of breaking the air continued to echo in the room. Time passes little by little. Lin Tien seemed to have entered a certain realm. It was as if he couldn't feel time. All he could think about and see in his eyes was the wooden sword in his hand. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. ... Just hear a trembling sound. Swing the sword 100 times and get the reward, Xiaoyao sword heart. Close black lens bracket. Suddenly, there seemed to be a light in Lin Tien's eyes, and he looked at the wooden sword in his hand again, his expression concentrated. Something is wrong. It feels different. The moment Lin Tien obtained this free sword heart, Lin Tien felt that his whole body had a higher level of comprehension of the sword. At this moment, the wooden sword is held in the hand, it is as light as a feather, and it is handy to swing. Follow the previous frequency. If you want to complete a sword that meets the system requirements, you need to swing it at least dozens of times. When the hand feels bad, it may not be possible to complete it even if you wave it continuously for dozens of minutes. But it's different now. A perfect sword can be swung with ease. In the next 10 minutes or so, the frequency of swinging the sword is getting faster and faster, until the dull and clumsy blade draws afterimages in the air. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. ... Currently, the sword has been swung 362 times in total. Close black lens bracket. 10 minutes, every sword must reach the standard. From the original holding the sword with both hands, it gradually changed to one hand, and finally both eyes were able to look forward. He held the sword in one hand and swung it frivolously. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Currently, the sword has been swung 363 times in total. Close black lens bracket. Suddenly, Lin Tien laughed. Unbelievable laugh. It's like a sudden epiphany. The eyes became clear in an instant, and even the heart with the sword became transparent. So this is a sword, Lin Tien murmured, and began to think in his heart. Even so, he did not forget to continue swinging the sword with his right hand. Still perfect. Since ancient times, the sword is born from the heart, and the direction of the heart is the direction of the sword. A person who holds a sword needs to fully integrate the sword into his body. To understand, to feel. What is a sword? Or, what should be the purpose after picking up the sword? But Lin Tien already had the answer in his heart just now. No surprises. Xiaoyao Jianxin merged with itself smoothly. At this moment, Lin Tien seemed to be in the sword, or he himself turned into a sword. Man and sword unite. It is the highest level of a person who uses a sword. Before you know it, hours fly by. Lin Tien's whole body was drenched and sweat was pouring down like rain, but he never tired of it. 627. 628. 629. He could feel that the sword energy in his body was constantly growing, and it was still tempering his muscles and bones. Under the sharpening of the sword energy, the bones of Lin Tien's whole body made a crisp sound. It doesn't hurt much, it just itch, very itchy. In Lin Tien's mind, it seemed that he already had the answer. These sword chi are helping him complete the second transformation. Sword bone, born for the sword. Once the sword bone is born in his body, together with the sword heart. By that time, his knowledge of swords may be able to go up several floors. Exit from the state of the unity of man and sword. Just for a moment, Lin Tien felt a dazzling crimson light flashing before his eyes. Hiss. Wei Wei avoided it, only then did he find out. Now, it is dusk. Looking under him again, the sweat fell on the floor and formed fragmented crystals, exuding a brilliant golden brilliance. Looking at the streets full of traffic, pedestrians are flowing continuously, honking and shouting are mixed together, and it is very lively. Call. Today, let's go here first. At the same time. Click. Outside the door, there was the sound of a key twisting. It seems that someone has come in. The door was pushed open. I saw a cute girl with ponytails coming in from outside. With a hint of resentment, the other party murmured, "Isn't this at home?" Lin Tien, I knocked 20 points. It's halfway through. But when the girl saw Lin Tien, who was naked and wearing only a pair of loose shorts, she fell silent instantly. You, where are your clothes? Upright teenage boy, topless and sweaty. Is it possible? Swish. A blush appeared on the girl's face, her heart was pounding, and her voice was intermittent. You were in the room just now, so you wouldn't have done something, some ulterior motive. The girl's name was Jong, and she was his childhood sweetheart, so she gave the key to her with confidence before. As for why it is a childhood sweetheart. As a traveler, isn't this the most typical configuration? Cough cough. The perspective changes to Lin Tien. He looked at Jong in front of him, and suddenly smirked in his heart. Want to know? Nonsense, believe it or not, I'll tell Uncle Wong. Since you want to know. Lin Tien nodded thoughtfully, then sit next to me and I'll tell you slowly. Zhong Ling's voice was sharp, and her soul was pulled out at this moment. Slam the door shut. Inside the house, the atmosphere is very strange. Lin Tien looked at the 1.6 meter tall girl in front of him. She has beautiful and slender black eyebrows, a pair of beautiful eyes that seem to reflect the galaxy, and a blush on her white and tender face. Look at the clothes again. It's the school uniform of Tien number 1 middle school, probably not long after school. Just as Zhong Ling was about to speak, he suddenly noticed the crystals left by the puddle of sweat on the ground, and couldn't help asking, "You were exercising just now? Otherwise, what do you think it is?" Lin Tien spread his hands to express his innocence. Day by day, I am young, but I have a lot of thoughts in my head. Zhong Ling clasped his arms and said emphatically, "Of course it's sports, what else can it be?" After a while, Lin Tien walked out of the bathroom. He washed his face, holding a mop in his hand to wipe off the sweat on the floor. 3 hours of high-intensity sword swing. Not only did I not feel the slightest fatigue, but I was even refreshed. The effect is stronger than that of a certain brother. Jong Ling sat on the sofa, looked at Lin Tien who was cleaning, and said angrily, "Did you skip class today?" "How did you know? There are 2 of them, one in class 1 and the other in class 4, so no matter how you say it, the news won't get through." Jong Ling smacked his lips. "How do I know? The whole school knows." "You are so good, Lin Tien, you can run alone with 7 or 8 people chasing you, even if the guard closes the door, you can't stop you." Hearing this, Lin Tien waved his hands, a little embarrassed. Don't exaggerate, it's all trivial." "Who praised you?" Jong Ling cut out. "Did Sister Ching give you some mission?" "Just running like that, it's like taking a doping. If it wasn't for the night watchman, I wouldn't believe it." She knew Lin Tien's identity. Who let his father Zhang Chengwen and Lin Tien's uncle used to be comrades in arms, wore a pair of pants, slept in the same bed, and could fight over a spicy stick. Otherwise, the 2 of them would not have remained neighbors for so long. The kind that moves together when you move. Buying a house is the same as going to an internet cafe to choose a location, you have to be connected. Lin Tien huffed and didn't deny it. It's not difficult to deal with an E-level alien species casually. "I see." Jong Ling groaned, then took out his mobile phone to search for a while. "Then this video is yours, it's all on the hot search." "Funny face mask, as expected of you. Is it on the trending search?" Lin Tien rubbed his nose, as if he had expected it. "It's just a routine operation, how is it?" "You're handsome." With that said, he leaned forward and looked at Jong Ling suspiciously. "TCH, a boy in the 2nd year of middle school." Jong Ling gave him a disgusted look, and then said, "Isn't this little wooden sword really afraid of breaking it?" "How could be?" Mentioning this, Lin Tien took out his wooden sword confidently. Longer than expected. Looking at the wooden sword about 80 or 90 centimeters long in front of him, Jong Ling couldn't help sighing. Speaking of which, since she knew that Lin Tien's awakening object was a wooden sword. "This is the first time I see you. Exquisite than expected. Although there is no gorgeous texture, it is definitely not rough as a whole, but it is shining with a translucent luster. Of course, it's harder than you think. Real or fake? Of course it's true. If you don't believe me, poke it, but gently." Boom. At this moment, the door was kicked open. Lin Tien's body trembled, only feeling a chill behind his back. Looking up, he saw a middle-aged man in front of the door, staring at them with a gloomy face at the moment, and the murderous aura emanating from his back seemed real. Even the space was faintly distorted. Half an hour later. "Dad, why did you kick down the door of Uncle Wang's house?" Jong Ling pointed to the anti-theft door that had been kicked in half, and said dissatisfiedly, "If Uncle Wong knows, he will definitely beat you when he comes back." "Uncle Wong is closer than Dad, right?" Zhang Chengwen still wanted to quibble, but immediately recalled it, and said angrily, "Just him. Still want to beat me up? If not." Zhong Ling's face was warm and angry. "Then why did the old boy beat me up? Take Uncle Wang's 7th rank, and you are only 6th rank." Pop. The corner of Zhang Chengwen's mouth twitched, trying to refute but couldn't find a reason. But watching his little padded jacket humming and leaking, he still looks like his deadly enemy. There is 1,000 upsets in my heart. Look at Lin Tien again. He had already changed into a clean white t-shirt, and he looked much refreshed. "Ling don't talk to Uncle Zhang like that." Seeing Lin Tien standing by his side, Zhang Chengwen nodded repeatedly, "Yes, yes." But in the next second, he suddenly leaned close to Lin Tien's ear, and said in a low voice, "Don't think that I can hand over my family linger to you." "Sure." Lin Tien swallowed, and a drop of cold sweat quietly flowed down. He didn't care much about Uncle Zhang kicking his house in half. Just a door. You know, a chairman of the head of the night watch department, even if he does nothing for a month and lies there as a mascot, his income is much more than that of a certain red envelope farm hanging up. Just one nutrient solution that can enhance physical fitness and is beneficial to the advancement of the awakened. Even if you don't take the initiative to pick it up, there are still people rushing to deliver it home. The closets at home are almost full. It's just a door repair, just make a phone call and get reimbursed directly. Jong Chungwon stood up and sighed. Boy Wong called me just now, and he hasn't been back for a week. Little god, don't cook, come to our house to eat these few days. After finishing speaking, they put their hands behind their backs and walked to the next door full of vicissitudes. Watching Uncle Jong disappear completely, Lin Tien drew out the wooden sword from behind again. It was interrupted just now. Do you want to continue? Continue. Little stars flashed in Zhong Ling's eyes. She grew up so big, her old father never let her touch these things. Come and touch it, but don't snap it with your fingernails. Lin Tien said generously. Hiss. This familiar feeling. Lin Tien's expression froze, and he looked up cautiously. In front of the empty door frame, a pair of resentful eyes slowly poked out. The sun was setting and the sky was getting darker. The night was dim, and the moon and stars were scarce. Come to Shoutian, tell Uncle Jong, what level is the awakened one? With an enthusiastic expression on his face, Jong Chungwon reached out for a bottle of beer and poured it into the glass. He also knew the deeds of Lin Tien beheading the crazy alien species with one sword. Don't say it, really don't say it. Quite handsome. Also on the hot search. At the same time, Jong Chungwon was extremely shocked. This is how the 5 assessments were all read, times, a week ago. Those are still secondary. The most important thing is the talent related to the upper limit. The Night Watch Division was established 100 years ago. Relying on the research on technology and forbidden objects, it has long had its own system of awakeners. There are 4 types of awakened: ability class, spiritual class, auxiliary class, physical class. Lin Tien's wooden sword belongs to the object type, while Yang Qing's ice is the ability type. But these 4 kinds of awakened people all have a unified talent level. From low to high: white, yellow, blue, purple, red, gold. If the test shows white, it may be difficult to become a second-level awakened person in this life by one's own efforts. Back then, he and Wong Yangshi tested their red talents. Only then did a 7th-level speaker and a 6th-level branch director come into being. Silly also tested that the upper limit of red is the 7th level, and one needs a higher golden talent to reach the 9th level. Unfortunately, since the establishment of the Night Watch Division, there has never been a golden talent. The current strongest person is only the 7th level where Wong Yangshi is. This is already Daxia's current ceiling. But no matter what, all awakened people have a common sense. That is, when innately awakened people test their talents, they are generally higher. Most of them are around blue. No matter how bad they are also yellow. An awakened object like Lin Tien is the white talent of the wooden sword, which is the only case in 100 years. No one else. When he learned of Lin Tien's achievements, he was as surprised as Wong Yangshi. But Lin Tien has the talent to be close to useless against himself. In a week, there is such a big change. It's really rare. Lin Tien poured himself a glass of juice, because he knew that if he drank with Uncle Jong, Zhong Ling must have had a drink too. With her half glass of alcohol, she might do something embarrassing after drinking too much. Uncle Jong, I should be at the first rank now. Even he himself was a little uncertain. Since the fusion of Jianshin in the afternoon, there have been hundreds of strands of sword energy. It really counts in terms of strength. Around the 3rd order. If the Xiaoyao sword chi is really strong as the system said, his own strength may be even stronger. Hee. Jong Chungwon laughed, and jokingly said, praise you, you're still pretending. There really is no Uncle Jong. Lin Tien shook his head. As you know, my situation is very special, and I cannot be associated with ordinary awakened people. Details. Jong Chungwon stopped drinking at this time, and looked at Lin Tien with a serious face. After looking at the piece of meat that had just been picked up, Zhong Ling thought for a while and quietly put it down, waiting silently for Lin Tien to answer. Lin Tien thought for a moment and did not choose to speak out about the system. He adapted it and said, other awakened people must absorb spiritual energy and improve their compatibility with the awakened objects to become stronger. But I'm different. My strength level seems to be linked to my attainment of swords. The deeper the understanding, the stronger the strength, and the higher the awakening level will be. On the contrary, just like at the beginning, I didn't know anything about swords, so my talent and skills were the worst. I see. Zhong Chungwon nodded thoughtfully after listening. If you follow what Lin Tien said, this situation is not impossible. He frowned, looked at Lin Tien and said seriously, Xiaotian, this is the first time in the entire night patrol division. I'll talk to Mr. Wong about this later. After Zhang Chengwen finished speaking, he waved his hand, come. Eat vegetables. Yeah, Zhong Ling cheered and picked up several pieces of meat in succession. Eat slowly, eat slowly. Zhang Chengwen looked at Zhong Ling dotingly, then changed the topic and looked at Lin Tien and said, by the way, Xiaotian, after dinner, let's come with me. Ah, what are you going to do? Lin Tien took a bite of vegetables into his mouth and asked while eating. Try your current strength, testing level instruments, I remember, aren't they only available in the branch? Lin Tien looked confused, and suddenly thought of something, no way, Uncle Zhong, don't learn from me, Uncle Wong. Some things should not be said too obviously. It would be okay if I was greedy for something like nutrient solution to assist my cultivation. All the test equipment came from home. Isn't that a bit unkind? Besides, Lin Tien remembered that the thing seemed quite big, at least as big as a small room. Zhang Chengwen's eyes twitched, can I be like Mr. Wong? I am honest and honest. Dad, someone came to our house to give gifts a few days ago. Let's. Zhong Ling added, why is this girl talking nonsense? Zhang Chengwen looked embarrassed, cleared his throat and then said, I definitely don't want that thing. I really didn't want it. I drank it all that day. Zhong Ling murmured. Zhang Chengwen, what I said about trying is that after dinner, we can go down and practice. When Lin Tien heard this, he almost spit out the drink he just drank. Uncle Zhong, you want to practice alone with me? Yes, that's about it. It's just a simple test. Otherwise, it's up to you. You can't even cut me if I stand and let you cut me. Zhang Chengwen then explained, it's not as difficult as you think, so don't be nervous. Okay. Lin Tien hesitated for a moment, then agreed. He is actually quite curious about what kind of strength he has now. What will happen once nearly 720 sword chi are wielded? Dad, you are already at the 6th level, so you should take it easy. Zhong Ling glanced to the side, if you miss again, you will be beaten to death by Lin Tien. What are you talking about? It depends on what you said. Lin Tien was not convinced. What does it mean to be beaten to death by mistake? Ling is Uncle Zhong an ordinary person? He is the backbone of Tien. Lin Tien said in a slightly scolding tone, you still missed and beat me to death. You are questioning Uncle Yang's strength. Xiaotian is right. Zhang Chengwen agreed, turned to look at Lin Ling, and smiled proudly, your father and I can fly. As for strength, we are very good at it. Don't worry. By the way, haven't you liked to compete with Xiaotian since you were a child? Let's go down and have a look later. No way. Zhong Ling shook his head, with a flash of sharpness in his eyes, I still don't know what happened to Lin Tien. Maybe I will wake up automatically tomorrow. Even if it's not innate, you can use the awakening stone the day after tomorrow. It will definitely not be bad. Zhang Chengwen was halfway through the dishes. After hearing Zhong Ling's words, he suddenly paused. After a long time, he shook his head and said helplessly, it's best not to awaken. If you want to awaken, it's best to be an auxiliary type. Follow me. This way safety. This time, I will definitely protect you. In the evening, downstairs in the community. The two randomly found an unoccupied open space. No one was around, but it wasn't quiet at all. Not far from this open space, a group of old men and women are dancing in the square. The dynamic music can just cover the sound of the test for them. Little God, do you need Uncle Zhong to let you? Zhang Chengwen rolled up his sleeves and looked at Lin Tien with a smile on his face. This kind of laughter is different from contempt and ridicule. It is more inclined that the elders are making fun of the younger ones. Uncle Zhong. Lin Tien pointed at the other party's fist that was as big as a sandbag, and said depressedly, if you don't let me, one punch can give me 8 sections. This is no joke, even though he now feels that his whole person has transformed. But the strength is only around the 3rd level. And the opponent is a genuine 6th order, the strongest of the great Shah. He didn't think he could match such a man with only a few hundred sword swings. It is rumored that when it reaches the 5th level or above, it is actually beyond the scope of ordinary people's comprehension. Similar to that in cultivation of immortals, Xiao Mengxin, who has just stepped into the foundation establishment, meets the boss in the nascent soul stage. That's pretty much what it means. If the two sides really let go of the fight. Lin Tien's evaluation is 19 out of 10. Uncle Jong punched him 9 times. Seeing that Lin Tien didn't move for a long time, Zhang Chengwen seemed to feel that his attitude just now was a little too exaggerated, and after restraining himself for a while, he said, Xiao Tian, Uncle Zhang stands here and does not move. And I will take out the defense power of an ordinary third-order awakened person, and I will infer the approximate level based on your strength. Third order. Lin Tien looked at Uncle Zhang, who was patting his chest for reassurance not far away, with a thoughtful expression. If it was someone else, he would consider stopping. But the opposite is Uncle Zhang. Even if the strength of a 6th level awakened person is compressed to the level of the 3rd level, it is still much stronger than most 3rd level. But, as a human being, sometimes you have to be greedy. Lin Tien smiled at Uncle Zhang. Uncle Zhang, if I beat you half a step back, you will meet one of my conditions. Yo-ha! The energy in Zhang Chengwen's heart also came up, and he said with a smile, Okay, boy, I learned badly from the old boy, and I took advantage of it. Uncle Zhang, let's have a hearty word. Lin Tien shouted. Zhang Chengwen didn't rush to agree. He grew up watched by Wong Yangshi, and he has a lot more ghost ideas than old Wong. Uncle Zhang, you are not afraid of losing, are you? Convex, who dare not? How can the dignified director of the Night Patrol Division of Tian City be afraid of losing? Come on, Xiaotian, you say a condition, I'll listen to it first. Zhang Chengwen rolled up his sleeves, obviously agreeing to Lin Tien's request. The premise is that this condition should be reasonable. Lin Tien thought for a while, then said slowly, let Linger be my girlfriend. No problem. Without even thinking about it, Zhang Chengwen agreed. Lin Tien promised so readily. Something is wrong. Based on his understanding of Uncle Zhang, the other party is Duo's daughter-in-law. Can you agree so easily? That's the condition, it's simple. Zhang Chengwen waved his hand generously with a bold face. Come on, Xiaotian, let's enter the octagonal cage. Lin Tien, don't, I'm joking, Uncle Zhang. Lin Tien took a deep breath. Knew it. When something goes wrong, there must be a demon. What he said just now was thanks to being a girlfriend. But let him marry his daughter to him instead. Into the octagon. Why don't you go directly to sign the life and death certificate? Zhang Chengwen's gloomy expression faded a lot, but his smile still permeated. Don't worry, Xiaotian, Uncle Zhang is just joking with you. Joke. Lin Tien's eyelids twitched several times. I just watched you untie your belt along the waistband of your trousers. So close. Almost got whipped. Hey, let's change. Lin Tien was very grateful in his heart. After thinking for a while, he said again, Uncle Zhang, I feel that I still know too little about the awakened in this world. If I succeed in making you take half a step back, I want to know about the alien species and the abyss plane. Zhang Chengwen was taken aback for a moment. Apparently he did not expect Lin Tien to raise such a condition. He thought that the other party would continue to say something, try to date Linger for a few days or have a meal alone. It's more serious than I thought, much better than the old Wong. Zhang Chengwen nodded immediately, agreeing, no problem, since you have become a night watchman, you will understand these things sooner or later. Lin Tien also nodded, and continued, after this, I want to ask Uncle Zhang a question. It's still about aliens, well, not really, but pretty much. Seeing this, Zhang Chengwen breathed a sigh of relief, yes. Then Uncle Zhang, let's start. Lin Tien took out the wooden sword wrapped in cloth strips from behind. He has a habit. As long as you go out, the wooden sword must be wrapped with cloth. Seeing Lin Tien take out his awakening object, Zhang Chengwen was not in a hurry. Wait a minute, Xiaotian. What's wrong, Uncle Zhang? Haven't I finished yet? Zhang Chengwen suddenly felt a little thick-skinned. Do not know why. Looking at Lin Tien now, it feels like seeing Wong Yangshi back then. It is simply a color. At the age of 18, 108 minds. If Xiaotian, your attack didn't make me take half a step back. Zhang Chengwen glanced at Lin Tien meaningfully, and then said seriously, you can directly join our Zhang family. What? Lin Tien was stunned on the spot. He thought about countless conditions. For example, if you shout 10 times in a row, Uncle Jong is 100 times stronger than Uncle Wong. Or secretly take out a few bottles of wine that Uncle Wong treasured. He never expected that the other party would say such a condition. Quote. Come on, Uncle Jong. Lin Tien paused, then gripped the wooden sword tightly with both hands. That's right. Jong Chungwon was slightly surprised. He noticed the change when Lin Tien held the sword. Whether its eyes or demeanor. Not the same person at all. Lin Tien let out a long sigh of relief. He began to mobilize the sword energy that was close to the thickness of his arm in his body. Let it attach to your own wooden sword. The effect is similar to enchanting. Suddenly, Lin Tien's figure moved, extremely fast. It took only half a breath to come to a position less than half a meter away from Uncle Jong. Immediately afterwards, holding the sword in both hands, draw a moon arc in the air. The free and unfettered sword energy is like an ink painting in a poetic realm, leaving a unique color on the night. Just then, Jong Chungwon's expression froze. Looking at the ink-like sword intent, the seriousness on his face became a little thicker. Is this the unprecedented awakener? He couldn't help sighing. At the same time, Lin Tien held up the wooden sword. Then, a sword fell. Accompanied by that free and unrestrained sword energy, he cut out. Only then did Jong Chungwon realize the seriousness of the matter. Wipe, get fooled. The wooden sword fell with one strike. Xiaoyao sword energy slashed out. Jong Chungwon's eyes were deep as he looked at the sword energy so close at hand. Next moment, he seemed to be in a landscape of mountains and rivers, with clouds and mist, small bridges and flowing water. A flying sword flew through the air. Not bound by the world, it's like riding on heaven and earth. This is... Jong Chungwon looked at the scene in front of him with a look of horror on his face. He knew that this was the way of swordsmanship that Lin Tien had learned. In an instant, Jong Chungwon broke away from the artistic conception and faced the wooden sword that was speeding towards him. There is no slightest hint of contempt in my heart. Countless tiny spiritual light spots appeared in the air one after another, and then began to condense in the air as if they were coming to life, gradually forming several vine-like chains. P.S. Awakening object ability, spiritual particles. Super realistic pictures not. Clatter. Lin Tien was shocked. These countless shape-shifting particles are obviously Uncle Yang's awakening objects. The spiritual power that seemed to be substantial surged in the open space. Wipe. Is this the third level? Can a third-level awakened person have such profound spiritual power? No time to think too much. Lin Tien's wooden sword was already facing Ying Ying's right arm. The wooden sword struck the translucent yellow chains, making a harsh friction sound. But Lin Tien did not relax at all. Jong Chungwon's heart was already filled with shock. I thought I could resist it without using my awakening object. But after feeling the artistic conception of Lin Tien's sword, he immediately retracted this idea. Want to use, and, the third-level awakener may not be enough. So he raised his level a little bit higher. Oh, that's so embarrassing. Jong Chungwon gritted his teeth in his heart. Today is a shameful day. I am thinking about playing with my juniors. Unexpectedly, he was forced to use not only his abilities. Even the strength has to be upgraded to a higher level. Even so, Jong Chungwon still struggled to resist. His feet exerted force violently, almost shattering the stone bricks under his feet, but he still couldn't avoid the fact that he wanted to retreat. This kid is truly a monster. He marveled secretly. No one who is born with awakening is mediocre. It's not a fuel-efficient lamp at all. Lin Tien, on the other hand, looked more relaxed. The heart of the sword buzzed and trembled in the body. It seemed that after possessing Xiaoyao sword heart, he no longer felt what tension was. Look at everything in the world with a normal mind. Unaffected by the secular world, it is above the sky. Only then can you know what freedom is. So, that's it. Lin Tien had another epiphany. I don't know if it's the influence of the system, or if it's because his talent is terrifyingly high. Jong Chungwon felt the sudden increase in pressure on his right arm and couldn't help but frown. A bad feeling arose in my heart. This kid, you can't realize it right now. He gasped. What kind of mentality does it take to have an epiphany in this confrontational state? Instantly, a frightening aura erupted from Lin Tien's sword. Such as the collapse of mountains and rivers, it is extremely shocking. Boom! The wooden sword fell completely. The spiritual chain wrapped around his right arm began to crack, and the roots shattered. What? Before Jong Chungwon could react, a stream of ink sword energy shot out vertically and horizontally, completely cutting off the chain in the air. Click. Jong Chungwon changed his hands from one hand to two hands, trying to block the sword energy. The smooth tiles began to crack underfoot. The majestic momentum brought him several meters away before he could barely stop. Look at the original place again. Uncle Jong had dragged out two long crack marks. Call. Jong Chungwon breathed a sigh of relief. His clothes were slightly torn. At the critical moment, if he hadn't forcibly raised his level to the 4th level and crushed this sword energy with his tyrannical mental power. The residential building behind him is afraid that it will suffer. Really not blowing. As for Lin Tien's sword energy, if he didn't resist it, but just let it fly out, it can definitely smash half a residential building. So scary. Jong Chungwon looked at Lin Tien at this moment, as if looking at a monster. A week. It's only been 7 days. For convenience, it has transformed from a low-level mop bottle to a top-level genius. No, wrong. Even the top talent in Daxia is not 1/10 of Lin Tien. This son is really the leader of swordsmanship, a genius who is rare in 100 years. This is Jong Chungwon's evaluation of Lin Tien. Learned in battle. With this state of mind, how many can Da Sha find out? I lost. Jong Chungwon smiled freely, and looked at Lin Tien. Oh my god, Uncle Jong, I'm convinced. Uncle Jong, you are letting me go. Lin Tien cupped his fists and said respectfully. Be humble, Shoutian. Jong Chungwon shook his head. You are a genius, go crazy. Ah, a question mark appeared in Lin Tien's head. Ah, for what? Jong Chungwon stretched out a finger and shook it, and said confidently, geniuses are not crazy, should we keep those who are weak in talent crazy? Genius is the capital of madness, but be careful, Uncle Jong, what I call madness is not telling you to go out and grab children's lollipops. In front of people of the same level, even if you are crazy, you are all geniuses. Why do you think that you must be better than me, and his grandma will take care of you later? Ah, this. Lin Tien nodded half understanding. Listen to good society. Little god, you may not know it. When we were young, you and Uncle Wong were crazy. No one was your opponent at the same time. In the youth training camp, one person swept away 28 geniuses in the same period. Sensation Night Watchman. What about you, Uncle Jong? FK. Jong Chungwon's expression suddenly became melancholy, as if he had been stabbed in the scar. He said reluctantly, although I really don't want to admit it, I can't beat your Uncle Wong either. In the same period, he only ranked 21st, which is a bit worse than Lao Wong. Jong Chungwon waved his hand. It doesn't matter if you don't mention the past. Anyway, Shoutian, you may be scarier than me and your Uncle Wong when we were young. There is a saying. Uncle Jong thought for a while, then suddenly nodded and said, yes, it's called, a genius is just a threshold to meet me. One word madness is over. It is true to be humble to the elders, but some people are different from me and your Uncle Wong. They are narrow-minded. They may not understand you and hate you. When the time comes, Uncle Jong will tell you something. What words? Don't get used to him. Give him face and pay him back. Just yell and scold him. If you can't do it, cut him with a sword. Lin Tien opened his mouth into an O shape, not to mention the surprise on his face. If you really can't cut it down, remember that there are still Uncle Jong and you Uncle Wong. The first level of the official ranks overwhelms people, and if the branch director is not enough, then the chairman. Jong Chungwon stepped forward and patted Lin Tien on the shoulder. Remember Shoutian, we never bully the weak, but for those who take the initiative to find trouble. The main fight is bullying. Sister is the queen, she shines with confidence. After dinner, the number of people in the community gradually increased. Jong Chungwon patted the dust on his body, and with a wave of his hand, countless spiritual particles condensed into chains in the air, and repaved the gravel scattered on the roadside back to their original positions. Well, not bad, it was flat before, but now it looks more beautiful with some patterns. Looking at the two broken marks filled by himself, Jong Chungwon nodded in satisfaction. He turned his head, thought, and said to Lin Tien seriously, Shoutian, your strength is probably not inferior to the third order awakened ones. And this, Lin Tien only took a week. It's only level 3. Lin Tien looked slightly disappointed. Still too weak. If a month later, the god really wakes up with the strength of this third level, do you want to fight with others? I'm afraid that before the sword reaches his face, a sneeze on the other side will kill him. Why, are you very dissatisfied? Jong Chungwon saw Lin Tien's loss. The growth rate is almost comparable to cheating, so you are not satisfied. Back then, it took him and Wang Yangshi almost 7 months from awakening to becoming the third rank. And this is already the top talent in Daxia. This is still the result of countless life and death trials. Jong Chungwon seemed to appear in front of his eyes. In order to quickly become stronger, Wang Yangshi used the strength of a second-level awakened person to forcefully drag him to the abyss plane. In that place, you may not be able to return after going to the 4th or 5th level. That old boy Wang Yangshi was so crazy that it took him 7 months. But Lin Tien only took 7 days. Not satisfied with that. Damn, I'm a little jealous. Okay. It's okay, a little slower than expected. Lin Tien smiled and raised his head again. Sometimes, being too forced is not a good thing, and it's okay to relax occasionally. Jong Chungwon shook his head. In fact, your strength is infinitely close to the 4th level, because the last sword energy was only resisted by Uncle Jong after I forcibly raised my level. Is that so? The disappointment in Lin Tien's eyes didn't weaken much after hearing this sentence. It's still not enough, I have to write faster. Jong Chungwon. #%. And, Jong Chungwon is about to scold someone. Can you give them some way out for these former big summer prides? At any rate, he was also an invincible existence who fought all over the Night Watch division back then. It's numb. Why is it so difficult to find some pictures in your kid? The corners of Uncle Yang's mouth twitched, and he forcibly calmed down and said, Okay Shoutian, I lost the bet between you and Uncle Jong this time, and I have saved some of those materials in my computer. I'll copy it when I go back today, and I'll hand it over to you tomorrow. Uncle Jong, let's talk about it. Retie the wooden sword to the wooden bar, and the two walked side by side on the way back. Jong Chungwon patted the back of Lin Tien's head lightly. What are you talking about, Uncle Jong? I can still lie to you, kid. Hey. Lin Tien narrowed his eyes and smiled. That's fine, Uncle Jong, I'll wait for your news tomorrow. Don't you still have a question to ask me? Let's ask it together now. Jong Chungwon stopped suddenly. Lin Tien thought for a moment, his eyes suddenly became serious. He looked at Uncle Jong, and said in a deep voice, Uncle Jong, do you know the gods? Hear the word God. Jong Chungwon's body suddenly trembled slightly, and his eyes seemed to dim a lot. The atmosphere was a little depressed at this time. The two were silent for a long time. Jong Chungwon was the first to speak. He looked at Lin Tien and suppressed, Shoutian, where did you know this? Lin Tien was stunned when the words came to his lips. Yes, how do I know? He can't say that he has a system, the system told him. Furthermore, looking at Uncle Yang's appearance, not only does he know the gods, but there may be some stories in it. Hiss. After thinking for a long time, Lin Tien made up a reason that even he might not believe. When I was sleeping, an old grandpa told me in my dream. Lin Tien laughed far-fetchedly. I see. Jong Chungwon had complicated eyes, but he still nodded. Look, how can someone like Uncle Jong easily believe? What? Believe it? FK. Lin Tien was stupid. Such an outrageous reason, to be believed so easily. Shoutian, you are among the awakened ones, and you are the most special group. Jong Chungwon was thoughtful, with a heavy expression, as if he was recalling the past. Compared to the miracle you just created, this kind of encounter is not too unusual. Point 6. Thousands of words were in his heart, but in the end Lin Tien finally chose the most concise way. Jong Chungwon put his eyes on Lin Tien again, with a solemn expression. Do you really want to know what a god is? That's right. Lin Tien nodded. Looking into his firm eyes, Jong Chungwon thought for a long time before saying, for creatures like gods, the night watchmen are only in the exploration stage at present. Explore, yes. Jong Chungwon nodded. These should be considered confidential in the Night Watch division, but, at the speed of your growth, even if I don't tell you, you will know it by yourself in the future. 30 years ago, it was the first time that the Night Watchman saw a god from a distance, and that was at an altitude of more than 100,000 meters. Successfully observed the figure of the opponent with a forbidden object. They are different from the alien species in the abyss, and their strength is much stronger than the alien species. There was a strange light in Jong Chungwon's eyes, and he said after a long time, even the weakest god is at least an awakened person above the 6th level. Lin Tien paused, and said weakly, so, Uncle Jong, have you fought against the gods? Since the existence of gods was first discovered 30 years ago, the frequency of gods has become more and more frequent in the following decades. They emit holy light, but those lights make the night watchman feel no warmth. Quote, the light is cold, and the eyes that look at the world are extremely indifferent. Jong Chungwon recalled the scene when he saw the god for the first time, the attitude of treating everything as a dog. It seems that human beings are as small as ants in their eyes. That look is really annoying. He snorted coldly, and continued, 10 years ago, the gods came to Daxia for the first time, but the result was tragic. Led by Wong and I, we led hundreds of night watchmen to fight with him. Speaking of this, Jong Chungwon clenched his hands tightly, and his voice was full of remorse and unwillingness. The battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, and finally at the cost of the loss of dozens of night watchmen from the night watchman and the serious injury of Wong Yangshi and I, we managed to get out of here. He was seriously injured. Is it just a serious injury? Lin Tien revealed horror. Yes. Jong Chungwon gritted his teeth. Even though he was reluctant to admit it, he escaped in the end. After that battle, the frequency of gods appearing decreased. Although they occasionally appeared suddenly and confronted the night watchman, it was only on a small scale and left in a hurry without causing many casualties, like it's like being afraid of something. But actually, Jong Chungwon took a deep breath, his eye sockets were deep. So far, the night watchman has never really killed any god. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe. Chapter 11. Return home. I took a cold shower and lay on the bed. Lin Tien had a solemn expression, staring at the ceiling and repeating Uncle Yang's last words over and over in his mind. So far, the night watchman has not killed any god in any sense. Are gods really that powerful? He glanced at the wooden sword beside him, then closed his eyes and stopped thinking about it. Next door, the Jong family. Dad, are you back? Zhong Ling shouted from inside the house when he heard the door closing. Well, Dad is back. Jong Chungwon checked again to see if there was any extra dust on his body, and then walked to the living room. Who wins between you and Lin Tien? During the conversation, Zhong Ling, wearing lazy Pikachu pajamas, was already standing at the door of the room, carefully looking at his old father. Dad, your clothes are torn, you can't lose, right? Nonsense, your dad and I didn't lose. Jong Chungwon blocked his right hand with his body and explained, that's just for fun with Xiaodian, to build up some confidence in others, you don't understand. Ouch, Zhong Ling narrowed his eyes with a smile on his lips. Okay then, just take your time and rest while I go over there. After that, she put her little hands behind her back and walked towards the door of her house. Wait a minute, Jong Chungwon stretched out his hand to block the door and said sternly, it's so late, where are you going? Go and see how Lin Tien is beaten by you. Zhong Ling glanced at Jong Chungwon far away. I don't know what you are like. The little cotton-padded jacket leaks air. Jong Chungwon was crying. This is her own girl. She doesn't care about her father, but she cares about outsiders. Female students are not allowed to stay in college. No, I disagree. Jong Chungwon glanced at it and didn't care about that much. It just couldn't be done anyway. Girl, what time did you check? It's only 10 o'clock, what's the matter? What the hell is it already 10 o'clock? Jong Chungwon raised his voice. At this time, you went. No, I don't agree. This moment, he had already imagined a scene in his mind of his own girl falling into the tiger's mouth. Can it work? Absolutely not. Ooh, this is my daughter, no one can take her away. Jong Chungwon felt miserable. No, Dad. Zhong Ling leaned over and said in a coquettish tone, Dad, you're the best. Let me take a look. You don't have to go, he's fine. Jong Chungwon had a straight face and denied in a cold voice, that kid is fine at all, so your father can let me cut off his arm. Real or fake? When Zhong Ling heard this, he immediately became interested. Is Lin Tien very strong now? Jong Chungwon, living in this world seems meaningless. How about jumping off the building? If I say too much, I will cry. Your dad almost lost his arm, yet you still care about whether others are strong or not. Dad, do you want to tell me? That kid's level in the upper reaches of the third level is simply a monster. Jong Chungwon gritted his teeth and said, okay now, it's your father and I who are in trouble. I have to copy the information about the abyss plane to him later. Don't you still have to go to school tomorrow? Go to bed early. I'll go talk to Lao Wong about this. Oh well. Zhong Ling nodded and returned to the house. Lin Tien, is that strong? Then I can't be left behind. I must become an awakened person as soon as possible. The other side, Zhong Chungwon sat on a chair and dialed a phone number. Soon, the call was connected. Wang Yangxi's voice came from the other end. What's the matter, Lao Zhong? I just returned to the headquarters, and there are still a lot of meetings. Grandma is tired of me. Let's wait for a while. Zhong Chungwon said while rubbing his neck. Wang Yangxi paused. What happened? About Xiaotian. 10 minutes later, after listening to Zhong Chungwon's narration, Wang Yangxi's breathing became rapid. Lao Zhong, are you kidding me? Fart, this is so serious, it's all the truth. Then I know, leave this matter to me. Hang up the phone. Wang Yangxi bought a bag of beer from a vending machine with a happy face. Then he walked into the conference room excitedly. Immediately afterwards, an unbelievable voice came from inside. Speaker Wong, why did you bring so much wine to the meeting? I can't help it. My nephew is cheating. He's better than me. I'm so happy to be an uncle. Come, let's drink together. Come in and I'll treat you. Quote. The next day, Lin Tien woke up from the bed. After becoming an awakened person, even if it is only the first level, the physical fitness will be greatly strengthened. Go to bed at 5 in the morning and wake up at 6. Even the king of Hades has to praise his good health. After casually eating breakfast, Lin Tien was ready to go to school. No way. In addition to being a night watchman, he is still a student. There are no tasks or aliens appearing on weekdays. He usually chooses to go to school, and then stay on the roof most of the time. A glass of iced orange juice, swinging a sword all afternoon. Lin Tien doesn't dislike this kind of life, on the contrary, he likes it very much. He picked up the wooden sword at the side, but this time, the white cloth strips on the sword body were replaced with black ones. Tie-in number 1 middle school. Have you heard? It's all on the hot search. Oh my god, it's so handsome. Did you kill a monster with one sword? Even with a mask on, I still think he's so handsome. Oh my god, if only this was my boyfriend, I want a Superman boyfriend too. Listen to the discussions of the students around you. Without knowing it, Zhong Ling put his hand into Lin Tien's arm, and pinched him hard. TCH, is Superman's boyfriend handsome? Why don't I think so? Lin Tien grinned in pain, but still joked. I can't help it, my brother is so charming. HMPH, just stay by yourself. Zhong Ling glared at him, speeded up and walked into the building first. Lin Tien looked at the other person's back and shook his head helplessly. This girl. Come to class. A good friend who is closer to Lin Tien hurried forward. I rely on Lin Tien, you were too courageous yesterday. 7 or 8 people chased after you and didn't even chase you, awesome. Low profile. Lin Tien didn't make a fuss about this, and walked to the window seat in the last row, and sat down. Niu Dazhuang, he has a good relationship with him on weekdays, he is simple and honest, but a little timid. Sister Hua is so pissed off, I don't have any good juice for you today. Niu Dazhuang reminded, by the way, did you see yesterday's hot search, that swordsman in white? No, what's wrong? Damn, I'm so handsome. Niu Dazhuang immediately regained his spirits when he mentioned this. Facing that dark monster, he is not afraid of danger, and the jade tree is facing the wind, that's really cool. Yes, especially the closing of the sword at the end, I like it even as a man. Lu Dazhuang excitedly said, if possible, I would like to give birth to a monkey for him. Puff. After listening to the last sentence, Lin Tien spit out a mouthful of water. Looking at Lu Dazhuang, he subconsciously moved back. It's him again, I remember, he's Lin Tien from class 4, right? Isn't he the one who skipped class yesterday? He was chased by 7 or 8 people, just like a monkey, but he couldn't be caught. What is the black stick in his hand? Is he going to go to the rooftop again? Hiss. Although his behavior is a bit weird, if you look closely, you can see that he is quite handsome. He has some flesh on his body, otherwise. While several girls were talking, suddenly I felt an unkind look coming from behind me. If you have the time, why not do your homework? There will be monthly exams next week. Jong didn't know when he stood behind these girls. The girls looked at each other for a few times, curled their lips and dispersed. The other side, school roof. A powerful sound broke through the air. 298. 299. 300. Swing the sword 300 times and get the reward, 300 wisps of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Currently, the sword has been swung 929 times. Close black lens bracket. Waved an integer. Lin Tien's tense arms relaxed. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and reached for the orange juice placed aside. Gone. He looked at the empty bottle and sighed. I had no choice but to go down and buy it. Just as he reached the door, a figure blocked the way. Hey, here you are. Looking down, he saw a bottle of slightly cold orange juice pressed right in his face. It's not good to drink too cold. Lin Tien took the orange juice blankly and watched Jong walk up to the rooftop. Please. As he spoke, he unscrewed the cap and drank most of the bottle in one breath. Sure enough, it tastes like this. Jong glanced at him and said, nonsense, what else? She scolded Lin Tien, then walked into the sun, half shading her forehead with one hand. Her skin is as good as snow, her eyebrows are picturesque, her seaweed-like hair is scattered on her shoulders, and her pure appearance can attract the hearts of countless men. Of course, except Lin Tien. So kind. Lin Tien walked to Jong and looked at it with squinted eyes. You can't drug him there. Roll. Jong said angrily and reached out to take the half-full bottle of orange juice left in Lin Tien's hand. Then don't drink it, spit it out. It's fine as long as it's not poison. I accept other medicines. Lin Tien turned sideways and took the orange juice to the highest point. His 185 centimeters height fully raised his arms. Yes. Jong couldn't reach it. If you jump up, you can barely touch it. But it's just that you can touch it. After a while, Jong simply gave up and glanced to the side, feeling sulky. What, are you angry? No, as long as you're not angry. Jong. She clenched her fists tightly, gritted her teeth and looked at Lin Tien. I want to tell your kind and gentle Uncle Jong about the fact that you secretly touched my hand a month ago. Lin Tien. Depend on. Remember all this. He has forgotten it. They went to see a movie at that time, and the male and female protagonists kissed each other to set the mood, and then, they just touched it once, and this girl can remember it till now. I was wrong, so wrong. Lin Tien's face froze and he gave in decisively. If Uncle Jong knew about this, he might actually drag him out to practice alone at night. TCH. Jong pouted, teach me how to swing the sword and let this matter be over. I can't talk about it after the past. No problem. Jong nodded readily, and then said, this matter is over, and 2 months ago, you secretly hugged me when you came home from study at night. Lin Tien. No, there is no end. Why is there more? That's okay, aren't you afraid? Did you scare me? Jong folded her hands and stared straight at Lin Tien. Ha. Lin Tien looked up at the sky, his face extremely embarrassed. Well, it seems to be ha. I've told your kind Uncle Jong about these things. What's the end? What's the end? What else could happen? No, at that time, it will not be the end, it will be buried directly. We've been friends for more than 10 years, why don't I teach you? Lin Tien clasped his palms together, and then took the initiative to hand over his wooden sword to the other party. It's my first time, not very good at it. Jong held the wooden sword carefully. It's okay, let's take our time. Lin Tien patiently said. Up, then down, the movements should be slow. Jong swung his sword and asked, Lin Tien, what kind of person do you think I would be if I awakened? Spiritual. Lin Tien rubbed his chin, thought for a while and replied, after all, Uncle Jong is not a spiritual awakener. His blood is so strong, so you should be too. Spirit. It seems to be okay. Near 6 o'clock, school time. Because Lin Tien didn't go to evening self-study, he came out much earlier than the others. Just as he was thinking about going home, he raised the number of sword swings to 1,000 in one go. When I looked up, I found that there were many people around the door. This car should be a lot of money, a convertible luxury car. Shouldn't your focus be on the person standing next to the car? That car is so white, so thin. That girl is so pretty. Does she look like she's picking someone up from school? Are you making an international joke? I haven't heard of who Gao Lengyu will pick up from school before. The voices of the crowd were noisy, each talking about their own, and they were all curious about the purpose of the other parties coming here. Miss Ching, why are you here? At the same time, Lin Tien bypassed the crowd and found Yang Qing, who was waiting here. The appearance of the other party now is completely different from the appearance of the house girl I saw in the office yesterday. Her skin is fair, without blemishes, her round and slender legs are wrapped in a black silk, and she exudes a cold and fierce temperament which makes people dare not approach her. Who would have thought that the other party was a two-dimensional house girl wearing white bear pajamas yesterday? The gap is too big. Yang Qing looked at the sound, stretched out her onion-like fingers and hooked off her sunglasses. Get in the car. All right, Miss Qing. The short two-sentence dialogue brought indescribable shock to the hearts of the onlookers. They showed incredible expressions. Do I rely on the truth? Isn't he Lin Tien who skipped class in class 4? Could it be taken care of? Damn, I'm not dreaming. Why is there such a big gap between people? I admit, I'm sore. I want this kind of treatment too. Most of the people present could not wait to write the word jealousy on their faces. Yang Qing looked at Lin Tien, who was walking towards this side, and said calmly, "You boy, why don't you answer my phone?" Ah, Lin Tien rubbed the back of his head with a puzzled look on his face. Sister Qing, when did you call me? Morning. Forehead. Lin Tien seemed to have thought of something. At that time, he seemed to be teaching Zhong Ling how to practice swords. Is there anything important? That's not true. Yang Qing got into the driver's seat. Come on first, the car said. Ever since, the two get in the car. Under the eyes of everyone's astonishment, it gradually faded away. What happened? Lin Tien turned his head and asked Yang Qing, who was driving. In my impression, this is the first time the other party has done such a thing with great fanfare. Hush. Yang Qing still stretched out a finger and made a quiet gesture. I'll wait to go back. Seeing that the other party didn't say anything, Lin Tien put his hands behind his head and stopped asking. The gap is really big. Lin Tien sighed in his heart. Yesterday she was a slovenly stay-at-home girl, but today she has transformed into a career-oriented iceberg goddess in the eyes of everyone. The gap between the two is not a star and a half. Unexpectedly, Yang Qing switched so smoothly without any sense of disobedience. Brother Yuan, are they back? Lin Tien glanced at Yang Qing. I'm back, Yang Qing muttered, as if something unpleasant had happened. The captain and others rushed back by plane at 2 o'clock in the morning. In the end, I chased him all night and got caught. Yang Qing said angrily, and suddenly changed back to the image of yesterday's house girl. The fat house happiness water that bastard captain gave me is confiscated. I won't be happy anymore. No wonder. Lin Tien nodded. He knew why the other party was wearing sunglasses. It is estimated that I haven't had a good rest in the past 2 days, and the dark circles under my eyes are too heavy. After a while, the speed of the car suddenly slowed down. Yang Qing parked the car on the side of the road steadily. Here we are, Xiaotian. Okay. Lin Tien sat up and followed Yang Qing into the office. Open the door. It was dark inside, with no lights. What's going on? Lin Tien was a little puzzled. Didn't the rest of the team come back? Why is there still no one in the camp? Miss Qing waited for a while. No response. Shit, Miss Qing is gone. Not caring so much, Lin Tien walked into the house, wanting to turn on the light. Boom. A slight explosion sounded in my ears. At the same time, the lights in the room suddenly turned on. Colorful fireworks are falling from the sky. Before Lin Tien could react, the crowd headed by Yang Qing stepped out from both sides. Congratulations, Xiao Tian, you have officially become a member of our Red Moon team. Applaud. Snapped, snapped, snapped. Lin Tien admitted that he is a little confused now. He turned his head and looked at the people lurking on both sides. With complicated emotions, he didn't know what to say for a moment. Congratulations, Xiao Tian, for becoming a real night watchman. Yang Qing stepped forward, spreading her hands. He gave Lin Tien a bear hug on the spot. We will be a family from now on. Wasn't it before? Lin Tien glanced aside, only felt something softly pressed against his chest, but his hands never fell down. Okay. A gentle-looking man in the team stepped up, put one hand on Yang Qing's forehead, and separated the two. Okay Zhao King, let's go eat barbecue later. Celebrate today. The man's name is Gao Yuan, the captain of the Red Moon team, a third-order spiritual awakener, and the awakened object is the eye of the mind. Real. When Yang Qing heard that there was barbecue, her eyes lit up, and she sucked in her saliva. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go now. But no alcohol. Gao Yuan suddenly said, recently, there are frequent alien activities, and even some people can't sit still. If there is an urgent task or something, drinking will be very troublesome. That's it, that's great. Yang Qing smacked her lips, and a look of disgust flashed in her eyes when she mentioned some people. Why are those scum still alive? I don't know, but I don't know why it suddenly became active recently. Gao Yuan shook his head. This time I went to the headquarters for a meeting, and half of the content was about their group of people. They have been active in many areas recently. Many people have disappeared. The plan is not yet known. Tian City has not yet had a missing person incident, but the possibility of it cannot be ruled out. At this time, the remaining two people in the team came from behind. It's getting late. Isn't today a celebration for Xiaotian? Since you can't drink alcohol, let's simply drink some juice. The speaker is one of the members of the Red Moon team, named Chen Haoshuan, a third-level auxiliary awakener, and the awakened object is a medical box. I like to wear a windbreaker on weekdays, all year round, thin in summer and fleece in winter. The other person is Wu Yu, with a fiery personality and a scar on his face. He is a second-order physical awakener, and the awakened object is an armored shield. Counting the addition of Lin Tien, there are 5 people in total. The 4 types of awakened are complete, both offensive and defensive, with a clear division of labor, and the strength is generally above the second-order awakened. Such a configuration of the Night Watchman team is quite luxurious in the whole Night Watch department. Wu Yu gave a heish, opened the door first, and greeted, "It's so slow to celebrate Xiaotian, hurry up, I'll take a step first, I won't wait for you." Know it. Gao Yuan seemed to have been used to it for a long time, and waved with a smile. That guy is still the same. Let's go, Xiaotian, eat until you are satisfied today. In the car. This time it was Gao Yuan's turn to drive. Yang Qing sat in the co-pilot, and the rest sat in the back row. Xiaotian, do you know that you are now a celebrity in the Night Watch division? While driving the car, Gao Yuan suddenly spoke, looking at Lin Tien through the endoscope. Me. Lin Tien pointed to himself. What became famous? Why didn't he understand? Wu Yu put one hand on Lin Tien's shoulder, and explained, you don't know, just last night, there was a meeting, and Chairman Wong, who is your uncle, came over with a bag full of wine. The dozens of people present were completely stupefied and didn't even know what happened. I heard that Chairman Wong is bold and informal, and I have seen it. Wu Yu looked adoring. Then Chairman Wong told you about your situation. After listening to it at the time, there were not many letters at all. It was simply too mysterious. The chief director was about to get angry when he saw it. Guess what? Wu Yu clapped his hands together. Speaker Wong made a video call to Director Jong of our city branch without further ado. Director Jong seems to be sorting out some information about the Abyss Plane, but when he heard it was about your situation, he bluntly said that the person involved was him. A chairman and a branch director put their own lives on it. That's what makes you hype. It's amazing. Lin Tien. Me. It's hard to imagine what happened at the headquarters of the Night Watch yesterday. Lin Tien said weakly. Then, what about the end? Finally, Wu Yu said more and more excitedly, I have been a night watchman for 6 or 7 years, and this is the first time I have seen such a big scene, because a speaker and a branch director guarantee at the same time, this matter is also it was forcibly fixed. You only need to understand the way of the sword to become stronger. From the first level to the third level in a day, the sword cuts down Director Jong. After a series of things, he is simply too outrageous. Wu Yu withdrew his hand and gave Lin Tien a thumbs up, his eyes full of envy. Now, your personal information has been encrypted at the SSS level. For some reasons, the chief director said that it is still to be determined, and things about you can no longer be circulated. At this time, the phone rings. Gao Yuan picked up the phone and picked it up for a while. Afterwards, his eyes narrowed, and he said in a deep voice, "Okay, I see." Put down the phone. Gao Yuan sighed, "I might not be able to eat this meal today. Someone is coming from the west side of the city." The religion. Everyone in the car was shocked, showing a troublesome look. Gao Yuan nodded, "It's still here after all. Those people from the God sect are very dangerous. They are a group of out-and-out lunatics. Only our Red Moon team can kill them in the city." "Is it on the west side of the city?" After hearing this, Wu Yu became angry instantly. "The west side of the city is not far from here. Hurry up, Captain, that group of people is likely to be the same as other areas, inexplicably arresting a group of people. With me here, there will be no problems for you." Hao Mingxuan said lightly. Lin Tien was sitting in the center, not saying a word. The religion. He seemed to have heard Uncle Wong mention it a few times before. Since the first appearance of the gods, this church has been established silently. They are the traitors of mankind, the scourge of the remaining world. They obsessively believe in helping the gods who have not yet come, even if they sacrifice their lives for it. Lin Tien remembered what Uncle Wong said to him yesterday. "I just hope that when the crisis comes, don't add trouble, that's all." "It should be them." "Xiaotian, do you know the religion of God?" Gao Yuan turned the steering wheel and drove the car towards the west of the city. "Know a little, but not much. The religion is a group of lunatics. They think that the gods can bring them salvation and new life. As long as they sacrifice everything, they can be recognized by the gods and take them beyond the world and out of the mortal world." Lin Tien nodded silently. "It's beautiful to think about. Religion. Just call it a cult." In his eyes, those so-called holy gods are no different from those twisted and dirty aliens that inhabit the abyss plane. Gao Yuan stepped on the gas pedal to the end. "We're going to the west of the city soon, everything is prepared in advance, and we will act carefully later." "Don't worry, Captain," Wu Yu agreed, and then looked at Lin Tien. "Xiaotian, you are the main force in our team now. There are 5 people in the Red Moon team plus Lin Tien. Including Hao Mingxuan, there are 2 third-order awakeners in total. But one is biased towards control, and the other is support. As for the vice-captain Yang Cheng, although she is an awakened person with supernatural powers, she is still at the 2nd level. Although he is a physical object, the awakened object is a shield. Although it can attack, it is more defensive. Right now, with the addition of Lin Tien, a swordsman genius, the overall strength of the team has simply risen to a higher level. If you meet someone from the God sect later, you don't need to be merciful. They are no longer worthy of being called human beings." Wu Yu patted his chest as he spoke, and said seriously, "Just go forward, and let me do the back." West District, a certain factory. "Boys, this is the most famous abandoned factory in the west of the city, with 1 million likes, I'll take you inside to find out." In front of the factory gate, a girl with a selfie stick said boldly. Behind her stood 2 assistants, a man and a woman. Lu Yaya, an outdoor anchor on the Douyin live broadcast platform, has attracted millions of fans with her sexy and sweet appearance, and the content of the live broadcast is to explore various haunted ghosts. At this time, she was wearing a white tight-fitting t-shirt with a deep V, plus a pink skirt with white silk, and her legs were slightly clamped due to excessive tension. "Isn't this abandoned factory rumored recently, and there will be screams every night late at night? It sounds scary, it can't really have ghosts. It's definitely fake. But that doesn't stop me from liking it. There shouldn't be those black alien monsters that were very popular on the internet before." The number of likes rose rapidly, and soon exceeded the 1 million mark. Lu Yaya took a deep breath, stepped forward and slowly pushed open the rusty factory gate. The rusty iron door rubbed against the ground with a harsh and sharp sound. I don't know if it's because it's been in disrepair for a long time, but Lu Yaya pushed it very hard, holding the selfie stick with the other hand, and the picture on the phone floated back and forth on Lu Yaya's lap. "Wow, show me such exciting things in the middle of the night. Thanks for the iron gate, yes. Try harder. Unfortunately, I'm not interested in Bicey." "Then what are you interested in? Could it be that you are only interested in haunted houses?" "Wrong, I like bare legs." Quote. Lu Yaya couldn't push it open by herself, so she called the two assistants behind her, and the door was barely opened. The interior of the factory is very dark, with rusty abandoned steel everywhere, and wet water on the ground. From time to time, there were a few squeaks of mice. Moonlight shines through the uppermost window, reflecting the cobwebs in the corner. Hello, is anyone there? Lu Yaya stood at the door and tentatively called inside. The sound echoed in the empty factory until it disappeared completely. Only a few faint drops of water responded to her. Then let's go in, Lu Yaya said in a low voice, and then followed the two assistants to the inside of the factory. The surroundings are very quiet, and you can hear needles falling. The footsteps of the three could be clearly heard. Since Lu Yaya was wearing high heels, her voice was more pronounced. Da rattling in the factory. Tell me, are there really those alien monsters here? I don't think so. Our Tien city is very safe. Anyway, I haven't seen it once when I grow up. Don't worry, someone will protect us, just like in the novel, there will be a mysterious organization silently guarding us behind the scenes. Guard us? Then what are they trying to do? Are they full of enthusiasm? I don't understand. Damn, barrage body protection, barrage body protection. Lu Yaya moved forward slowly, her eyes fixed on the depths of the factory, not daring to relax for a moment. She always felt that something was staring at her. It's like looking at prey. The most important thing is that there are more than one pair of eyes. Clatter. At this moment, there was a strange noise not far away. Lu Yaya moved abruptly, and looked not far away. There seems to be something. She swallowed her saliva. Driven by the strong demand of the barrage and the full screen of planes and rockets, she took a deep breath and walked over there. Step, 2 steps. It's almost there. Everyone held their breath and stared at the screen intently. Squeak, squeak. Suddenly, a mouse came out of the gap and ran towards Lu Yaya's legs. Ah! Lu Yaya screamed and wanted to escape in a hurry, but because of the high heels, she lost her footing and fell to the ground. The selfie stick fell out of his hand and fell to the other side of the steel. The two assistants hurried forward and helped each other up. Unlucky. Rubbing her butt, Lu Yaya didn't care about other things. She limped and wanted to pick up the phone. Don't panic, I'll pick up the phone right away. She stepped over the steel carefully. But the next moment, Lu Yaya's pupils suddenly shrank. Following the faint light of the mobile phone, she found a group of people lying on the other side of the steel. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. Click. The factory was plunged into darkness. Hey, what a windfall. Thank you for the gift of God. We are willing to dedicate everything to you. Just now, who was talking? Yes, is it a monster? Lu Yaya's mind had gone blank, her legs went limp, and she sat on the ground slumped. She was so frightened that she was about to cry. She sprained her ankle. Facing the darkness around her, she could only helplessly curl up in a corner and shiver. Xiao Song, Xiao Yun, are you two here? Lu Yaya's voice trembled, with a hint of crying. Call the police if you're here. Are you there? The two assistants didn't respond, and they probably ran away the moment the door closed. The position of an assistant is a thankless job. To put it bluntly, he is just a tool person, and he is tired of dirty work. Now that the danger is coming, who cares about an anchor? I can talk about my own life. The ugliness of human nature is clearly displayed at this time. Oh my God, what did I see? That's a human. Call the police. Don't you call the police. The anchor has strayed into the trafficker's den. Call the police. Are you from Tien City? You should call the police. You will be arrested later as a false police report. Maybe it's the script. Don't tell me. This script of exploring a haunted house and leading to a trafficker's den is quite novel. The anchor's acting is a bit fake, so it should be more realistic. Looking at a group of fans in the live broadcast room who don't think it's a big deal. The last line of defense in Lu Yaya's heart completely collapsed. She watched the live broadcast room sobbing, and said to herself, yes, I will call the police. There are monsters here. I will call the police myself. Trembling, she raised her phone and clicked on the page for making calls. 1. Lu Yaya's fingers trembled, and she was a little uncontrollable at first, but she still insisted on pressing the last key, 0. Pat. With the pressing of the third key, a voice resounded faintly. You are the sacrifices of the gods, you will be punished for escaping. I saw a man with a ferocious face slowly coming out of the darkness, holding the two assistants who had just escaped with his hands. At this moment, they are like lambs waiting to be slaughtered in the hands of the man. One hand has been torn off by the man, and blood is flowing. When he saw Lu Yaya, the man licked his tongue, showing a look of enjoyment. It's very good, you didn't run away, unlike these two people. They are disrespecting God. After finishing speaking, the man threw the two assistants to Lu Yaya's side like throwing trash. Get ready, the apostle has already met us not far away. Suddenly, another voice sounded from the darkness. This time it was a man with a cropped cut. He glanced expressionlessly at Lu Yaya, who was curled up in the corner, and the two assistants beside him twitching in place. Tai Shichi, take them all away, I will make full preparations for the arrival of God in advance. Walk with God. The man named Tai Shi prayed devoutly, and then walked towards Lu Yaoyao step by step. No, don't. Lu Yaya trembled all over. Watching Tai Shichi's arrival, she pleaded, don't come near me, I have called the police will be here soon. Tai Shichi didn't seem to hear, his eyes kept scanning Lu Yaoyao, as if he wanted to eat him up. Don't resist, it is glorious to sacrifice everything for God, and you will get a new life. Quote. Don't be afraid, it will pass soon. No, do not want. From the corner of her eye, Lu Yaya glanced at the two assistants beside her who had lost an arm and were still bleeding, and their expressions became more and more flustered. Facing the claws stretched out by Tai Shichi, her eyes were full of helplessness and despair. I don't want to die yet, who will save me? At this time, a stream of ink sword energy slashed out across the sky. The blade buzzed and suddenly appeared in the darkness. Tai Shichi was shocked, facing the galloping sword chi. He had no time to resist it, and received a solid blow with his arm. The ink sword energy brushed against his arm, and it didn't stop but continued to fly deep into the factory. Tisk. Iron 17 was in pain. But luckily nothing major happened. The arm just fell off. Lu Yaya, who was still in shock, didn't know what happened at all. She saw the sword energy flying past her side, and her desperate eyes were rekindled with a glimmer of hope. Someone has come to rescue her. Next second, Tai Shichi's arm fell smoothly in the air. Slap. The air suddenly froze. Immediately afterwards, Lu Yaya, IDIA, Iron 17. In the live broadcast room, there was already an uproar at this time. They have realized that this is not a script to increase popularity. It's a real terrorist attack. Damn it, that man lost his arm. Those people keep talking about something, is it a cult? Oh my god, the anchor was almost taken away by this man. I can't imagine what would happen if he was taken away. Look, there seems to be someone above that factory. White clothes, he seems to be wearing a funny face mask. Although it's a bit weird, but the way he appeared on the stage is so handsome. Oh no, isn't he the one that was on the hot search yesterday? Everyone in the live broadcast room had keen eyes, and immediately recognized that the person in this funny mask was the boy who killed the alien species with a sword in yesterday's hot list. The religion. Lin Tien turned his back to the moonlight, held a wooden sword, and looked at Tai Shichi below him playfully. It doesn't seem very strong either. Who? This sentence seemed to have hit Tai Shi's vitals, and successfully aroused his anger. Who are you? Tai Shichi raised his head abruptly, staring at Lin Tien with those bloodshot eyes. Blasphemy, he deserves death. Who I am? Lin Tien pointed himself with his fingers, feeling a little helpless about this question. Come up and ask someone's name. How presumptuous are you? If you don't say it, you will die. Tai Shichi spoke coldly. Don't. Lin Tien yelled, since you ask the question sincerely, then I will be merciful. That's not half the story yet. The short-haired man who had been hiding in the darkness just now rushed out of the darkness, swinging his fists to kill Lin Tien. What are you doing talking so much nonsense with him? Take someone away. The inch-cut man shouted at Tai Shichi, and immediately looked at Lin Tien, and said coldly, blasphemy, death penalty. Facing the man's attack, Lin Tien looked calm, turned slightly to avoid the man's heavy punch. Is it blasphemy? He smacked his lips and swiped out the wooden sword in his hand, forcing the short-haired man back. Reflecting the moonlight, Lin Tien looked at each other coldly with that funny face mask. I'm sorry, I didn't intend to blaspheme. No intention. The inch-cut man was taken aback, and stared at Lin Tien suspiciously. Are you going to join my teaching? He seemed to have thought of something, and his face became crazy. Join my teaching and become a believer in God. When God descends, he will bring his own authority over everything to wash away the sins of this world, and for us. You may have misunderstood something. Seeing the shortcut man dragging his words, Lin Tien interrupted impatiently. What I'm going to do? It's God's Slayer. You know what you're talking about. The short-haired man's eyes darkened, and his eyes looking at Lin Tien were filled with murderous intent. The wooden sword in Lin Tien's hand drew a half-arc in the air, and then the sword pointed slightly. I also know that you are a group of traitors who have abandoned humanity. Behead. As soon as the words fell, Lin Tien's figure rushed out from the spot like an arrow from a string, so fast that it left a trail of afterimages in the air. What? The face of the short-haired man changed. He didn't expect the other party to be so fast. Even myself, a second-level awakener, couldn't catch this person's figure. Appearing again, Lin Tien was already above the short-haired man. A sword fell. Swing the sword once, get a reward. Array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Feeling the oncoming powerful slash, the short-haired man raised his fists in panic to resist, but was knocked down from the sky by this powerful slash and hit the ground heavily. Smoke and dust rose all over the sky. Lin Tien looked at the sudden system prompt and felt happy. I didn't expect that this could be considered swinging a sword. That being the case, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Lin Tien curled his lips and revealed an evil smile. Wait for the smoke to clear. The short-haired man struggled to climb up from a pile of discarded steel. Blood was pouring from his mouth, and sharp pains came from his arms. Both arms were broken, comminuted fracture, but the opponent only used one sword. He is a supernatural awakener, and his awakened object ability is Iron Fist. Now that both arms are useless, he has lost his most basic combat ability. Damn it, how can you be so strong? The short-haired man looked into the air resentfully. Logically speaking, he knows all the night watchmen in several teams in Tian City. The two strongest level 3 are also spiritual and auxiliary. The only person who can pose a threat to them is a second-level awakener whose awakened object is ice. Even if he is outmatched, he is fully capable of escaping. But now, this person's appearance was completely unexpected. Hey, why aren't you saying any words in your mouth? Lin Tien came over with a sword in his hand, a hint of joking in his voice. Ignorant human beings, you have no idea what you are doing. Only God can bring salvation and purify all the sins in this world. The short-haired man snorted coldly. I am God's most loyal follower, kill me. God will bring me from afar. Snapped. Don't wait for the other person to finish speaking. Lin Tien went up and struck the opponent's door with a sword. The hell am I going to make you beat? Swing the sword once, get a reward. Array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Man with short hair. He was stunned by this. Blood flowed down the corners of his eyes, and the intense pain caused him to twitch on the ground. He kept mumbling, God will bring me new life. Snapped. Another sword fell. This time it was the abdomen. Swing the sword once, get a reward. Array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. The short-haired man lay on the ground groaning in pain. God will. Snapped. Swing the sword once, get a reward. Array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Man with short hair, %. And, FKU, give me a good time if you can. As God's most loyal follower, I can't. Oh, shit. Just as the short-haired man was about to curse, Tian Ling Gai was slashed by Lin Tien, son. Swing the sword once, get a reward. Array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Blood trickled down, and the short-haired man could only close his eyes tightly and continued to yell, ignorant mortals. Snapped. Ignorance. Snapped. Stupid. Snapped. Why did I ask you to teach me the truth? Why did I ask you to interrupt my handsome opening remarks? While Lin Tien questioned, he slashed downwards. Compared with the man under him who was beaten and bleeding, he would still rather die than surrender. Lin Tien is more like a villain at the moment. Aren't you awesome? Huh. FK, are you a god? After chopping more than 40 swords, Lin Tien slowly got up. He let out a long breath. I'm so tired. Man with short hair. Are you a devil? I have chopped more than 40 swords, and I didn't cry out that it hurts. Are you tired first? The inch-cut man was heaving violently. He closed his eyes tightly. This time he recited silently in his heart instead. This is the tempering that God bestowed on me. After this calamity, God will give me a new life, take me out of the control of the devil, and out of the mortal world of this world. Are you just muttering in your heart? Without saying a word, Lin Tien went up and slashed down with his sword again. Ah, 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 the inch-cut man completely collapsed. If I read it aloud, you can kill me, but if I read it in my heart, you can kill me. It's too sinful. People like you are not worthy of joining my God religion. God will not bring you salvation. It's still beeping, isn't it? Wrong. The inch-cut man shut his mouth sensibly. This is called retreating. As long as he lives, God will lead him out one day. Snapped. Damn. I shut up. Why are you still cutting me? The inch-cut man lives in Bangbu. Crazy. Satan got you tattooed on the back. Lin Tien scratched the back of his head. I'm sorry, I've suffered from obsessive-compulsive disorder, round up 50. Crest cut man. $%. Hold back. Be sure to hold back. I can't help but be chopped again. Song Shiliu, you have to persevere. You are the most loyal follower of God. You just suffered comminuted fractures of both arms, and shattered 12 sternum. You are left with a permanent disability. These skin injuries cannot shake you, Song Shiliu. The inch-cut man thought in his heart, closed his eyes, and finally chose to remain silent. Currently, I have swung the sword 979 times. Close black lens bracket. It's still 21. Lin Tien's eyes were burning, and he was already looking forward to the reward when he swung his sword 1,000 times. Humph. Suddenly, Song Shiliu, who had been silent for a long time, smiled. Idiot, did you forget something? The people I teach have already transferred everyone. They will replace me to greet the coming of God, and God will bring me a new life. Come on, why don't you chop me up? Don't you like to chop me up? Come on. Song Shiliu laughed wildly. His words were full of ridicule towards Lin Tien. Are you talking about the man standing over there? Lin Tien pointed to the depths of the factory with his sword. Song Shiliu was puzzled, and looked in the direction of the wooden sword, and then the smile froze on his face. You, what the hell are you doing? He looked not far away. Tai Chi, who was struggling to lift a dozen people with one arm, already had the urge to die in his heart. Ah, what the hell are you doing? Song Shiliu broke his defense. Break the defense. Why would the omnipotent and omniscient God send this guy as his teammate? Right, it must be God tempering his will. It must be so. Smile to encourage your teammates, they are followers of God just like you. In an instant, more than a dozen people fell from Tai Chi. I'm so ridiculous. Iron 17, I'm F King. Why does the divine religion accept this kind of cerebral palsy? Tired. This moment, the one-armed Tai Chi turned around, like an ant on a lonely boat, confused and helpless. God forgive me. Song Shiliu closed his eyes and gave up struggling completely. He couldn't complete the task assigned to him by the church, so he could only let other members complete it. God is omniscient and omnipotent. Perhaps he had expected that Iron 17 would be so stupid, so he sent the apostle and other members to respond outside before the action. It looked like it was just the two of them. Actually 8. Minus the two of them, there are a total of 6 people squatting outside. This is the last guarantee of the action, otherwise how can he and an Iron 17 complete the task of the God Lord? Jia. Thinking of this, Song Shiliu couldn't help laughing wildly. He secretly slandered in his heart, do you think you are good at fighting? Can you hit 2 with 1, and 6 with 1? You chopped mine just now. How can he cut it back after a while? Brother Yuan, have you solved everything outside? Lin Tien spoke suddenly, and looked towards the factory entrance. What? Song Shiliu was taken aback. Looking up, 4 figures appeared from the roof of the factory. It's just miscellaneous fish, there are 6 in total. Gao Yuan narrowed his eyes and smiled chillingly. After all, they threw 6 corpses from the air, straight, on Tai Shichi's body. Smoke billowed. Wu Yu leaned out his neck and glanced at Tai Shichi below, and said tactfully, I'm sorry, Tiezi, I hope I can smash you to death. Only Iron 17 was injured in the world. As early as 3 minutes ago, they had already solved the 6 god believers lurking in the periphery. When I first came here, I saw the one-armed Iron 17, trying to lift a dozen people with one arm, plus a struggling Lu Yaya. Lin Tien pointed to Song Shiliu who was under him, and said, let's take this for questioning. Gao Yuan glanced at Song Shiliu, who was collapsed in the pile of steel, and nodded, you did a good job, boy, the people of the God sect are a bunch of lunatics and they rarely catch them alive. Except for the one below. Iron 17. The 4 jumped down from above and began to pay attention to check the kidnapped personnel. Hao Mingxuan took a few casual glances and walked to Lin Tien's side, are you okay? I'm not bad. Lin Tien glanced at Song 16, this kid is so ugly, he almost fell into his hands. Song 16. He raised his bloody head with difficulty, and stared at Lin Tien with 2 eyeballs. It seemed hard to believe what I heard. Who is so folded in his hand? Can you say that again? It was someone else who slashed me 40 or 50 times with a sword just now. Hell is empty, and the devil is in the world. Do you have to be a perverted person to say such a thing without shame? People of the God cult are a bunch of scum. Hao Mingxuan snorted coldly, and glanced at Song Shiliu on the ground. Song Shiliu, a member of the God cult, a 2nd-level awakener, once attacked and killed 2 night watchmen. The ability is awakened, and the ability is Iron Fist. I remember you. With an indifferent voice, he told each other's information one by one. Song Shiliu chuckled lightly and didn't care about it. It's a great honor for Captain Chen to remember it so clearly, but if you want to get something out of my mouth, I advise you to get rid of this idea as soon as possible. With God. Chen Haoshuan's eyes were deep. He looked at Song Shiliu's crazy appearance, and couldn't help clenching his fists. When did you become so crazy? Crazy. Song Shiliu was puzzled. In your eyes, is this crazy? If not, Chen Haoshuan said in a deep voice, it's not that you haven't witnessed the indifferent eyes of the gods with your own eyes. You obviously participated in that battle. You also stood in front of the alien, and loudly shouted the instructions of the night watchman. I also cried for my teammates who died. Sad. That was obviously only a 2nd-level awakened person, but he stood in front of his teammates, roaring angrily that he wanted to use his iron fists to beat the high god who was lying beneath him, Song Minghui. Where it goes. Quote, the more Chen Haoshuan spoke, the more excited he became. His eyes were fixed on Song Shiliu who was dying in the pile of steel, trying to see something from him, but now, you are not worthy of being called a human being. Lin Tien was a little dazed listening. Brother Chen, you know each other. Yeah, even though he didn't want to admit it, Chen Haoshuan still nodded. He was a member of my former team, Song Minghui, who became a night watchman 13 years ago, killed 2 teammates 3 years ago, joined the Divine Sect, under the pseudonym Song 16. After that day, I resigned from the position of captain and came to Tian City to join Captain Gao's team. Don't mention it. Song Shiliu seemed to have let go of it long ago, and smiled flirtatiously, you don't understand Captain Chen. It is because I have seen the gods that I know how naive I was, how stupid I was. Only God can save this world. He can bring new life to all people. All sinful people can be redeemed in the eyes of God. With God. Chen Haoshuan's expression was complicated. He wanted to speak back, but finally ended with a wordless sigh. He put one hand on Lin Tien's shoulder. He's a madman, ignore him. Lin Tien silently nodded. People of God religion. Are they all this crazy? Captain Chen, do you think that the people of the God cult used to be ordinary people? More than half of them used to be night watchmen. Why do you think they know so much about night watchmen? Song Shiliu laughed loudly, as if he had forgotten the pain and was completely immersed in his own world. With God. With God. On the other side, Tai Shichi, who was controlled by the crowd, also shouted. You shut up. Song Shiliu yelled at Tai Shichi. You are not worthy of being a follower of God. Your appearance will shame God. Iron 17. I've become a prisoner all the time, why are you scolding me? What's wrong with me? His eyes were confused, and after being scolded, he lowered his head and muttered softly, walk with God, be with God. Look at the kidnapped people again. Gao Yuan has already untied all the ropes on them. Haoshuan, see if you can help them heal, 2 of them are seriously injured. Chen Haoshuan stopped talking to Song Shiliu, turned around and raised his hand and said, here comes the captain. He, God is omnipotent. Only by giving up struggling and choosing to surrender, can we save everything. Song Shiliu pondered. Lin Tien stood where he was, looked at Song Shiliu who repeatedly said that he would surrender, and said calmly, killing him can also save everything. Kill. Song Shiliu smiled dismissively, killing a god. Blasphemy is a capital offense. When you find out that you are not the protagonist in this world, you will understand me and make the same choice as me. Lin Tien didn't answer. He frowned slightly, his eyes seemed to penetrate through layers of obstacles, as if noticed something. Alarm bells ring outside. Time to go. Gao Yuan straightened up and said to the other team members, leave the rest to the police department. Remember to take these two with you. We should withdraw. Received, Captain. Everyone answered, and jumped to the roof of the factory before the police came in, ready to leave. Lu Yaya looked at those mysterious people wearing masks obsessively, her dirty face was full of confusion. Damn, they're so handsome. Are they the heroes who protect Tian City? Although the others are very good, my evaluation is not as good as 1/10,000th of the funny swordsman. Don't you think, wearing white clothes with a wooden sword and wearing a funny face mask at the end, this tie pants are hot? Don't say anything, brothers. Next time at the comic exhibition, I will cosplay that funny-faced swordsman and hit my XP hard. At this moment in the live broadcast room, chatter about Lin Tien's identity was heated. Lu Yaya sat alone in the corner, and those who were originally unconscious gradually came to life. That man, so handsome. West District, outside the street. Compared to listening to Chairman Wong and Director Jong at the headquarters, what I saw with my own eyes shocked me even more. Wu Yu was only slightly older than Lin Tien, and he was the most excited one in terms of emotion and reason. No wonder Speaker Wong is so excited. Gao Yuan echoed, then looked at Lin Tien, and said with a trace of apology, I'm sorry Xiaotian, I promised to celebrate with you today. Lin Tien shook his head indifferently, it's okay, Brother Yuan, let's send the people from the God sect back first. Behind the team, Chen Haoshuan pressed Song Shiliu and the others to move forward slowly without saying a word. Don't struggle, with your two broken arms, it is impossible to break free from this forbidden object. I won't run away. Song Shiliu dragged his heavy body and walked with difficulty. God will come to rescue his most loyal followers. There is no cure. Chen Haoshuan shook his head in disappointment, and stopped talking. Everyone returned to the parking place. Gao Yuan said to the others, Xiao Qing, take them back first. I have already contacted Si Li, and Haoshuan and I will send these two followers of the divine religion there later. Yang Qing didn't seem very relieved. Captain, I'll go with you. After all, those people from the God sect are all lunatics. Maybe they did something. Do not worry, Gao Yuan said softly. Haoshuan and I are both in the third rank, so we can protect ourselves even in the event of an attack, and when we call the police, Silly has already sent someone here to respond. Oh well, Yang Qing struggled for a moment, then nodded. Go to bed early. Gao Yuan handed the car keys to Yang Qing, also. I probably didn't unplug the network cable. What? Yang Qing's eyes lit up little stars, then Xiaotian and I will go back first, take care of yourself. No problem, Gao Yuan replied with a smile. Then let's go first. Yang Qing opened the car door and sat on it. Be safe. Gao Yuan made a reminder, and immediately set his sights on Lin Tien, Xiaotian, to make up for you. I'll take you to meet someone tomorrow. To see people, yes. Gao Yuan nodded. Compared with a barbecue, I think you might gain more from meeting him. Who are you seeing? Lin Tien asked curiously. You'll find out tomorrow. Gao Yuan smiled mysteriously. Xiao Qing, take them away first. Let's go, get in the car. Yang Qing greeted Lin Tien and Wu Yu who were outside the car. Celebrate the completion of the mission, and when I get back, I'll treat you to some potato chips. I'm coming. When Wu Yu heard this, the car door didn't even open, and he jumped in directly. You're out of potato chips, Yang Qing said lightly. Wu Yu, looking at Lin Tien again, he stood there without moving. What's wrong? Everyone looked at Lin Tien. Lin Tien scratched the back of his head. You guys go back first, I have something to do, I'll take a taxi and go back first. Hey, wait a minute, don't. Before Yang Qing finished speaking, Lin Tien had already disappeared in a flash. So fast. Wu Yu sighed. He is in such a hurry, why did he go? Yang Qing looked worried. and said with her gaze fixed, she said quietly, at this time, it can't be to make an appointment with some younger sister to go to exercise together all right. Separate from the Red Moon team. Lin Tien looked dignified, and walked quickly through the rooms of several buildings. According to the breath, it should be in this direction. He stared straight ahead, not daring to relax. Dozens of minutes ago, shortly after the conversation between Chen Haoxuan and Song Shiliu, Lin Tien, who originally thought that all the cult members involved in the mission had been killed, suddenly realized that there seemed to be a pair of eyes watching him behind him. That breath is not simple. Ever since he possessed Jianxin, he has an extremely keen sense of danger. Although the palpitations were not as strong as when he said in front of Uncle Jong that he wanted to marry her daughter, but can make him feel this way, presumably the other party is definitely not an idle person. No imagination. Following the source of the breath, Lin Tien came to an abandoned pier at the alley. The factory is less than a kilometer away from here. Lin Tien held a wooden sword and came to a dead end. Facing the empty alley, he said flatly, "Come out." The sound is not loud, but in such a quiet environment, it is still highlighted clearly. No one there. Lin Tien doesn't think so. After a long time, under the vast night, a man wearing a silver dress slowly appeared in Lin Tien's field of vision. With a smile on his face, regarding Lin Tien's appearance, he said unexpectedly, "How did you notice me?" Lin Tien asked without answering, "Didn't you draw me here with your breath?" The man froze for a moment, and gradually withdrew his smile on his heavily made-up face. "You are very interesting, boy. So, what is your purpose for bringing me here?" Lin Tien looked at the man above with a blank expression. "The purpose. You should have guessed it." The man took off his hat and gave a standard gentleman's salute to Lin Tien. "It's our first meeting, one of the 12 apostles of the lower god sect, gentlemen." Lin Tien. He spoke quietly. 12 apostles. It seems that Song Shiliu mentioned it before. It seems that something is responding outside. It should be that the other party didn't run away. Compared to those little fellows from the god sect, this one seems to be the management. "Young man, you are extraordinary," Shenyang said slowly. "If it were you, God would definitely like it. The group of so-called followers are just a group of unnutritive cannon fodder. God will not redeem them." As Shenyang said, he looked at Lin Tien with crazy expression, "But you are different. I can feel that you are different from that group of people. You are unique. God will take a fancy to you and reward you. On behalf of the Church of God, I extend an invitation to you. Join us, and you will become the 13th apostle of the Church." 13 apostles. Lin Tien raised a smile. "I can become the 13 apostles right after joining. Are you sure the people below won't have any objections?" "No, no, no." Shenyang stretched out a finger and shook it. "They are not qualified. That group of people are nothing more than a speck of dust in the eyes of the gods, and their only use is to pave the way for the gods to descend into the world. Quote, only we apostles are qualified to be God's subordinates, follow in God's footsteps, and escape from here." "Is that so?" Lin Tien nodded thoughtfully. "Since that's the case, can I choose someone else instead of being an apostle?" "Others." Shenyang's eyes were flowing, and he pretended to be crazy and said, "No problem, as long as you join the God religion, you can be whatever you want." Really? Shenyang gave an affirmative answer again. "As long as you join the divine religion, I will guarantee you in the name of an apostle. Then I'll try to be a godfather." Seeing that the other party was serious, Lin Tien simply stopped acting, poked his ears and looked disdainful. "Let's forget it, I don't hesitate to have this son." The voice fell. The atmosphere suddenly became serious. Shenyang's crazy eyes suddenly sank, and there was a strong murderous intent in his words. "Are you kidding me? You just noticed it?" Lin Tien pretended to be very surprised, but then his tone changed. "Now it seems that even the apostles are not very smart. Blasphemy is a capital offense." Shenyang narrowed his eyes slightly, staring at Lin Tien below. He tapped the scepter in his left hand, revealing the demon sheep tattoo on the back of his hand. The blood-red pupils flickered, exuding a terrifying aura in an instant. A fourth-order awakener. Lin Tien's expression remained calm, but he couldn't help being surprised in his heart. This little boy is actually a fourth-order awakener. You must know that the gold content in the ranks of the awakened is quite high, and it does not contain a little water. The difference of one order is like a world away. The first two stages may be better. Once the third stage is reached, not only the body will gradually be reborn. Even the use of awakened objects and abilities by the awakened has been greatly developed and expanded. Just take the Night Watchman as an example. As a huge organization covering the entire Great Sha, its first and second order awakened people are too numerous to count. They are usually sent to various cities to join Night Watchman squads in various places, responsible for dealing with xenomorphs or other incidents in the area. At the third level, the number is directly cut in half. If the first and second ranks have 1 million, the third rank and above may not even reach 10,000. Tier 4 is even less, and he can already hold a considerable position in the Night Watch division. From the 5th level to the 6th level, he is already a senior manager of the Night Watch division. According to what Uncle Jong said, his strength can already compete with the gods for a short time. As for the 7th step, how strong it is hard to say. Just relying on the fact that you can bring a bag of beer into the headquarters conference room to brag about it. It is worthy of being the top powerhouse in Daxia. What he didn't expect was that the apostle in this divine religion was also a 4th order awakened person. It seems that being able to jump around under the eyes of the Night Watchman for so long without being wiped out is still a bit of strength. Well, at this moment, Shenyang suddenly sighed and looked at Lin Tien with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. What a pity, I thought you could join our divine religion and follow the great god together. But now, you've lost your chance. The scepter in Shenyang's right hand touched the ground again, and an invisible aura instantly enveloped Lin Tien. The strings and threads seemed to come alive, continuously drilling into Lin Tien's body. Since it doesn't work, then let's become a walking dead puppet. Shenyang's stagnant face became crazy again. His bloodshot eyes stared at Lin Tien, as if he was preparing to listen to the other party's scream. The most wonderful thing in this world is to torture a genius into a thoughtless walking dead with his own hands. Shenyang put the black top hat on his head, and smiled ferociously. Come on, scream. Struggle. When the gods come, I will let the gods attach new consciousness to you and bring you a new consciousness. Come to the newborn. Bring it on. Shenyang stretched out his hands. Howl. He closed his eyes and fell into self-indulgence. 1 second, 2 seconds, 2 minutes. There seemed to be a few crows flying by with a series of periods in the air. Shenyang, what happened? What about the screams? How could there be no? Shenyang opened his eyes in disbelief, and his breathing became irritable. His ability can manipulate other people's emotions. As long as there is a trace of evil in his mind, he will be infinitely magnified by him and become a monster occupied by emotions. In the end, in the tens of thousands of desperations, the spirit of the other party was gradually worn away. In this situation, even the most determined person will eventually collapse. Without saying a word, you are so dumb. Shenyang came back to his senses. He looked at Lin Tien to see what happened. The open space below. Lin Tien frowned, very speechless, looking at the gentleman above who was talking to himself. The corner of his mouth twitched. Stupid. Since just now, he has been intoxicated and said a lot of things. Can emotions be manipulated to collapse in repeated despair? That's really professional. After owning Jianshin, there is no trace of modeled thoughts in his heart, Chicheng and pure. Manipulation. Even if Lin Tien wanted you to control him, he couldn't find a trace of unnecessary negative emotions. It is better to deal with distracting thoughts. Directly enter the unity of human and sword. Put all your heart into the sword. There is only one thing in your heart, and that is the sword. This ability is definitely a nightmare in the eyes of those weak-willed people. But for him, it is the same as the electric system against the ground system. It has no effect. This is impossible. Shenyang's right hand holding the scepter trembled slightly. His eyes were full of disbelief. Why don't you have any extra emotions? Even if it's an evil thought, are you still human? In his eyes, as long as there is no distracting thoughts in people's mind, even the selfishness of the moment, as long as there is one, he can control it. But now, Shenyang forcibly calmed down his restless mood, forced a smile and said, "You are so interesting, young man." Thanks. With a hook with his right hand, Lin Tien shattered all the white lines in the sky with just one sword strike. Shenyang was not surprised by this, but his tone was extremely gloomy. Then I can't keep you today. If such characters are allowed to grow up, in the future, there will definitely be no small threat to the divine religion. Young man, you are a genius, but at the same time, you are also very arrogant. The murderous intent in Shenyang's body became stronger and stronger. Your cleverness and arrogance will only harm you, just like now. Is that so? Lin Tien met the other party's gaze, a sharp sharpness flashed in his eyes, without any fear. He faced the air with his long sword, and said lightly, by the way, I don't like to raise my head and talk. Did you come down by yourself, or shall I cut it off for you myself? Amazing. This is simply amazing. Shenyang smiled instead of anger, looking at Lin Tien with a tinge of fanaticism in his eyes. Yes. That's the attitude. When I torture you with my own hands, the screams will be more pleasant. You can try. Lin Tien's eyelids twitched. Are all the gods so crazy? The wooden sword in his hand trembled slightly, and a vast white mist appeared invisibly. What a tenacious fighting spirit! Shenyang shouted almost madly, I have met too many people like you, but they all look the same in the end. Crying and begging me, let me kill them. The scepter in Shenyang's right hand slammed into the ground with such force that the concrete floor was pierced with cobweb-like cracks. Upon seeing this, Lin Tien didn't dare to relax in the slightest, and he pushed his feet higher and higher into the air. Next moment, dense white silk threads spread out from the cracks, shining sharply against the faint moonlight. Facing the galloping silk thread, Lin Tien frowned. He didn't understand what the ability of the other party's awakened object was. But now it seems, he only knows a little. If you let this thing touch it for a while, you will have to peel off your skin if you don't die. Lin Tien slashed a stream of sword energy. The Xiaoyao sword energy collided with the silk threads, and sparks were sparked miraculously. So hard, Lin Tien was startled. Speaking of which, this is the first time he has fought against a fourth-order awakener. In other words, this is his first actual combat. The one facing him was the apostle of the divine religion. This is the case now. It's like asking a baby to drive a van up to Chumingshan to meet the car god. Very dangerous. The chances of wanting to beat the opponent are very small. But it's not impossible. A flash of determination flashed in Lin Tien's eyes, and he rushed towards Shenyang the moment he landed. The white silk thread followed closely behind. But he didn't panic in the slightest, and he fell with the sword in his hand, as if he tore a hole in the air with terrifying power. Shenyang looked at the wooden sword that was about to fall, but still had a crazy smile on his face. Are you underestimating the fourth-level awakened people? There was joking in his words, and he raised his scepter slightly to block the wooden sword. The two faced each other, and there were countless silk threads chasing after him. In this battle, Lin Tien must die. Young man, you are very strong and have a lot of fighting spirit, but if that's all you have, be prepared to be tortured to death by me, huh? Shenyang's voice was abrupt, and his expression turned aside. Feeling the strength from the wooden sword, he couldn't help frowning. Can actually shake him, a fourth-order awakener. But the accident didn't last long on his face, and then disappeared. I still have to die. Shenyang shouted loudly, and the strength of his hand also increased a bit. When the third level goes up, people are already running in the direction of the ascended. It is not only the ability to awaken, but also the physical fitness that becomes stronger. Don't struggle. I will gently cut off your limbs, and nail your tongue, so that you can't ask me for mercy. Lin Tien glanced at the silk thread behind him from the corner of his eye. Facing Shenyang's madness, he couldn't help but say, no, buddy, you're a psychopath. After all, he didn't pretend anymore. The mixed white sword energy burst out, suppressing the opponent in an instant. Without waiting for the other party to react, he was blown away by him, and finally smashed into the rear warehouse. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Smoke and dust rose all over the sky. Not caring about anything else, Lin Tien rolled backwards, slashing at the silk thread with his sword. Flames splashed, surprised at the hardness of this thing at the same time. Dust and smoke scattered. The sheep came out of the ruins with an elegant demeanor. It seemed that the sword didn't cause much damage to him, even the hat was still firmly on his head. It's wonderful. You're attracting me more and more. Shenyang looked at Lin Tien, who was struggling with the silk thread. The smile on his face was almost distorted. But there is something you said is wrong. How can this be perverted? It's art. It's the greatest art. Listening to the howls in torture and enjoying the despair on their faces when their limbs and organs are cut off. How can this be perverted? When Shenyang said this, he seemed to think of something, and the madness on his face became more intense. Yes. I will use silk threads to penetrate into your body along all the gaps in your body, and crush your internal organs. Inspiration. It's you who inspired me. Oh my God, you are so interesting, young man, I feel. I'm about to fall in love with you. Wipe. This is so perverted. Lin Tien swung his sword again and slashed at the densely packed silk threads. The terrifying force made his wrist sore, and the wooden sword almost fell out of his hand. Fortunately, the purpose has been achieved. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. From the beginning to the present, he has swung no less than dozens of swords. 1,000 times away. Currently, the total number of sword swings is 997. Close black lens bracket. Only the last 3 times left. Lin Tien glanced at the prompt given by the system, then pointed his sword at Shenyang. You are too perverted, or you should just die here. Am I dead? Shenyang pointed at himself suspiciously, but soon he shook his head. No, no, none of us will die today, you are too special. I'm curious what's going on in your head. You can't kill me, I want to take you back. While torturing you, I also want to open your brain. No. It's digging out your heart. I want to see what kind of person it is, so that I won't suffer from it. My influence. Then I'm afraid you have no chance. Lin Tien took a step forward, moving like a dragonfly on the silk thread. In the blink of an eye, he came to Shenyang from a few meters away. A sword fell. Ding. When the wooden sword collided with the scepter, there were crisp sounds. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Twice more. Lin Tien shouted angrily, and the wooden sword fell again. Ding. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. The last time, although it is tier 1 versus tier 4, but, not caring about the silk thread behind him, Lin Tien revealed determination in his eyes. I have the advantage. At this moment he chose to fight for his life. You lost the boy. Shenyang's eyes were ecstatic. Come on. Come home with me. I will treat you well. Give me as far as you can go. Lin Tien held the sword in both hands and roared angrily. The next moment, the sword falls. Swing the sword once, get a reward, array of sword energy. Close black lens bracket. Come home with me, boy. Shenyang took off his courtesy, and gracefully gave a gentleman's salute to Lin Tien again. He put away the frivolous and crazy smile on his face, and replaced it with a plain and flowing smile. At this time, the densely packed sharp threads stopped suddenly less than half a meter away from Lin Tien. It was like being blocked by an invisible wall, unable to move forward no matter what. What? Shenyang was shocked, in his extremely incredible eyes. Lin Tien laughed out loud. Laugh free and easy. It seems that I won this fight. Currently, the sword has been swung 1,000 times in total. Close black lens bracket. Reward. Freedom sword intent. Close black lens bracket. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Chapter 21. In an instant, almost a huge amount of mental power began to emerge in Lin Tien's body. At this moment in the long dark night, a white abyss was drawn out by a white sword energy, which spanned thousands of miles and divided the clouds into 2. How can it be? The sheep looked up at the sky. He was the closest, and he could clearly feel that the source of the terrifying sword was the young man in front of him. Impossible. There was a rare trace of panic in Shenyang's eyes, and he subconsciously took a few steps back, only to find that the other party seemed to have been immersed in a state of epiphany. This man has a big secret. After all, he is also one of the apostles of the god cult. Facing this situation, he quickly adjusted, but the panic in his eyes did not decrease by half. He had fought against several Fourth-Order Awakened members of the Night Watch Division. I have also seen several major speakers of the Night Watch Division fighting with the gods. But it's not as good as 1,000th of this sword. Scary. Although he is a person of the divine religion, he has also seen the power of the gods. But at this moment, Shenyang was shaken. If it is this sword, maybe it can really kill the gods. Shenyang's breathing became disordered, and when he looked at Lin Tien again, his eyes once again showed the color of madness. A bold idea sprouted in his mind. When people enter this state of epiphany, they are often the most relaxed on the spiritual level. His awakening is called spiritual authority, which can control the other party's emotional thoughts through silk threads as a medium. Similarly, he can also let the silk thread act as a transport and link, sending his consciousness to the other party's brain, so as to spy on the other party's memory and thoughts. But this method is extremely dangerous. Once the consciousness is shattered, the whole person will really become the walking dead that he said. Although the flesh is alive, the man is dead. Shenyang raised the scepter, and a silver-white silk thread slowly penetrated into Lin Tien's brain. The next moment, all the madness in his eyes dissipated, and his pupils turned white blankly, as if he had lost consciousness, and his whole body was precariously standing in the wind. Spiritual world. Lin Tien stood on a lone boat, staring blankly at everything around him, raised his head blankly, as if he was thinking about how he got here. The whole body is like a fairyland, with misty clouds and mist, the river water is like a mirror, and there are pavilions in the mountain stream. Cranes stand on top of the lotus, and everything around them is like a landscape ink painting cut by Lin Tien. He only remembered that he swung the 1000th sword. Then came here. Young man, do you play with swords? An old voice rang in my ears. Lin Tien heard the sound and looked. An old man wearing a bamboo hat was fishing at the bow of the boat. What surprised him was that from the moment he appeared here until now, he hadn't noticed the old man at all. It's like merging with this world, he can't find it without talking. And Lin Tien still remembers that someone once said this sentence in his dream. Could it be this old man? The clothed old man put away a fishing rod made of wooden sticks, turned his head to Lin Tien and said, "Young man, have you ever thought about being a sword-wielding man to roam freely in this world?" It's another familiar phrase. Lin Tien has already confirmed that the other party is the old man who appeared in the dream a few days ago. He nodded slightly confused, a sword-wielding man who roams freely in this world. What is Xiaoyao? The old man's cloudy eyes brightened a little when he heard these 4 words, and he said, I am Xiaoyao. Lin Tien, God, why are you happy? What he asked was how to do it in order to be called the real carefree. What do you say to me? I am happy. Lin Tien bowed slightly and said humbly, Senior, I don't quite understand what you said. I am Xiaoyao, Xiaoyao is me. The old man stroked his gray beard with a smile, everyone calls me Xiaoyao old man. Lin Tien, no wonder, its original name was Xiaoyao. Senior, how did you become this carefree old man? Lin Tien simply changed the way of asking. Me, the carefree old man stroked his beard thoughtfully, it's been a long time, thousands of years. Old man, I can't remember clearly. Isn't it the easiest thing to be free in the world? A clear mind, not to be confused by the world, free and unrestrained, to do whatever you want, and one more thing, forget it, anyway, isn't this the simplest carefree? The old man Xiaoyao said with a smile. Lin Tien. Forget, this old man is really casual. It feels so unreliable. But this should be the joy in his heart. Immediately, a soft willow branch appeared in his hand, and he looked at Lin Tien and asked again, Young man, do you want to? Lin Tien thought for a moment, then nodded his head. Just for an instant, when Lin Tien raised his head, he noticed that the old man's demeanor had changed. Wuxian's eyes became extremely bright at this moment. He stood up and twisted the willow branches with his skinny hands. Do you want to? Just think about it. The old man will pass on this mantle to you. The old man Xiaoyao took out a wine gourd from nowhere, took a sip, and walked with his feet on the ground. Ripples in the thin clouds. Standing above the lotus, the cranes that had not moved for a long time also flew away together at this time. The open-minded laughter of the old man Xiaoyao spread throughout the ink-painting fairyland. For thousands of years, I have never met anyone with the same origin as me. Young man, do you know how much the old man and I have paid for the word, Xiaoyao? Wife and son, have all kinds of emotions and 6 desires. Lin Tien said blankly. Wrong, wrong. The old man Xiaoyao shook his head. If you give up even these things, isn't it also bound, so how can you call it Xiaoyao? Yes, Lin Tien was pointed out with one word. Yes, if even these things have to be deliberately discarded, how can we achieve real happiness? This old man used to be a Zhonghu swordsman, his wife and children were perfect, and his children and grandchildren were full, but in the end, I was the old man. The old man Xiaoyao said, After the death of my great-great-great-great-grandson, I suddenly realized that this world is too boring, and there are too many shackles, so I can't really do whatever I want. Since then, I have stayed away from the secular world, and stayed in a fairy mountain for 300 years. During this period, I drank dew when I was thirsty, and ate grasshoppers when I was hungry. Suddenly, one day, my mind changed suddenly. The heart that used to use the sword has also undergone earth-shaking changes, and has become the current Xiaoyao Zhanxin. Old man, it took me 300 years to comprehend the truth, but you are only a teenager, but you already have that heart of freedom. I will pass on this inheritance to you, old man, and it will be difficult for me to stop me when the King of Heaven comes. The old man Xiaoyao smiled, and his words revealed the domineering arrogance in the world. Correct. When he said this, he suddenly thought of something, laughed loudly and said, the old man remembered. The most basic of happy life. It is to have the strength enough to rule the world. Lin Tien watched everything quietly. Just to comprehend this Xiaoyao Zhanxin, it took 300 years. Could it be that the carefree old man in front of him is an immortal? He didn't think about it anymore, and focused on watching the next move of the old man Xiaoyao. Young man, you can still look forward to it. The old man Xiaoyao stood in the air. This sword carries all the will of the old man. Today, I will teach you everything. After the words fell, the old man Xiaoyao used willow branches as swords, and the vast sword intent swept the entire ink fairyland at this moment. The calm river caused waves of hundreds of meters, but the solitary boat that Lin Tien was on remained motionless. Happy sword. In an instant, the wind blew up and the clouds changed. The carefree old man was in the air, and the willow branch in his hand took shape. At some point, he had turned into a wooden sword like Lin Tien's. Cut out with a sword. The seemingly simple sword, but it contained a majestic sword intent, piercing through the clouds in an instant, so powerful that it even split the sky into two. Across the world, you have to be at ease, and the heart of the sword comes out. The old man looked at his sword hanging thousands of miles away, and seemed dissatisfied, but then he smiled openly. Young man, this sword does not contain any sword skills. It's just the sword intent that the old man has transformed for many years, called Xiaoyao sword intent. Lin Tien watched quietly. When he came back to his senses, he felt that the sword heart in his body was activated by something. If Jian Shin is compared to the human body, then Jian Yi is the soul endowed to this body. Wonderful. Lin Tien couldn't help but open his mouth to admire. Wonderful. The old man Xiaoyao stroked his beard. This is what I have learned all my life, it must be wonderful. The other side. Shenyang has already come to Lin Tien's spiritual world. Looking at the scene around him, he was extremely shocked. This is where, could it be that boy's state of mind? Marvelous. Shenyang laughed wildly, and he fled to the distance in the form of a soul, as if he wanted to find Lin Tien as soon as possible. I've changed my mind. I want to find you, kill you. I want to possess you. This body is simply amazing. The voice just came out. Shenyang's eyes changed, and he was terrified when he saw the sword intent hanging thousands of miles across. It's this sword again. Why is there such a powerful sword in this spiritual world, the 7th level? No, 8th level, 9th level. He panicked completely. This was the first time he felt death. Before I had time to reflect on it carefully, it had already disappeared in this world. Outside the spiritual world, the bleak evening wind blows along the seashore. Shenyang stood there indifferently at this moment. The last gleam of consciousness in his eyes was completely dimmed. A mouse rushed out of the collapsed warehouse and hit the sheep. Thump. Shenyang fell to the ground, but did not respond at all. In the spiritual world, the carefree old man looked into the distance. It seems that an ant has been exterminated. His heart is too muddy. He is a very evil person. If he is exterminated, he will be exterminated. He waved his hand and ignored it. This is the inheritance of the old man, can you learn it? Lin Tien felt the free and unfettered sword intent circulating in his body, and was greatly shocked. This person is worthy of worship, and it is also worthy of Lin Tien's worship. Senior Xiaoyao, please accept this junior. What are you doing? The old man Xiaoyao hurried forward, holding the falling Lin Tien with his hands. What are you doing? What year is it? What are you praying for? And remember, this is what the old man taught you on his own initiative. Even if you don't want it, the old man will force you to give it to you. What are you praying for? What is there to ask for? Lin Tien was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly realized. Then I would like to thank Senior for the gift. No thanks, no thanks. The old man Xiaoyao waved his hand. Young man, you should go out and do what you should do. But don't forget what you thought in your heart at the beginning, to live freely in the world, to become the sword holder in this world, so you can't be blinded by the world. The old man's voice became more and more ethereal. When Lin Tien came back to his senses again, he had already returned to the port where he fought. He looked at the gentleman sheep who had become a vegetable under his feet, not knowing what happened at all. What the senior said just now, could it be him? Lin Tien bent down. He realized that the other party's body was still alive, so he picked it up decisively. As soon as it touched it, the scepter in Shenyang's hand shattered into powder and dissipated in the wind. This is his awakening object, and if his soul is dead, then this awakening object will also be shattered. It's already a plant anyway. There is no threat. He simply took the head and went to Uncle Jong to exchange for some merit money, and gave the night watchman a vaccination and a booster in advance. Let them be prepared. At least let me confirm that what Uncle Wong and Uncle Jong were bragging about that night is all true. Lack of evidence, empty words. This gentleman sheep is the proof. In the spiritual world, no matter how hard it is for the old man Xiaoyao to restrain his inner emotions, seeing that his inheritance has not been broken, he trembled and said. Finally, young man, use the sword in your hand to become the sword bearer in this world. As for Xiaoyao, then you will truly understand what Xiaoyao is. Say it. The eyes of the old man Xiaoyao gradually became dull, and his old and haggard body began to disintegrate into pieces. He is aware of his lingering thoughts, and they are about to dissipate. But there was no emotion in his eyes, only gratification and satisfaction. Since there is a successor, and he personally sent the inheritance, then he will die without regret. As the last fragment dissipated, only the hearty laughter of the old man Xiaoyao remained in this fairyland. Back to reality. Lin Tien seemed to have noticed something. He put down the sheep, with a complex expression on his face, and looked at the gully that still remained in the night sky. If the husband takes advantage of the righteousness of the heaven and the earth, and guards against the debate of the six qi, if you want to swim infinitely, he will be evil. Congratulations to the seniors. When I got home, it was already midnight. Lin Tien didn't watch the door and walked in directly. The door was kicked and broken, and I haven't had time to find someone to install it. So be it. Cool. As soon as he turned on the light, Lin Tien heard a slight sound from the door next door. Who? You Uncle Jong. Jong Chungwen came to the door and knocked on the wall 3 times. When? Uncle Jong, what are you doing? Lin Tien looked at Jong Chungwen's strange behavior with puzzlement on his face. Knock on the door. Lin Tien. He paused, and then replied, Uncle Jong, there is no way. Then I'm in. Jong Chungwen smiled and walked into the room. I heard from the department that your team went to encircle and suppress the members of the divine cult today, and you are the main force. As Jong Chungwen spoke, he suddenly encouraged, you did a good job, little boy. Uncle Jong, don't get me wrong, this is what Lao Wong asked me to bring to you. Anyway, he also said it for me. Jong Chungwen coughed twice, sat aside, and said slowly, the people of the God religion are crazy, but also shrewd. He said and handed a USB flash drive to Lin Tien, this is what I promised you. There are some information about the abyss in it, and some of it is about the religion. I remember that part of it seems to be about the 12 apostles of the God cult. They are a group of lunatics, very powerful lunatics. You can take a look. If there is a mission about the God cult next time, you can take some precautions in advance. Jong Chungwen said with a headache. This group of guys who call themselves God's apostles, each of them is no less than a fourth-order awakened person, and their abilities are extraordinary and their actions are unpredictable. Over the years, the 12 apostles have changed batch after batch, but only 3 were actually killed by our night watchmen. They are a group of powerful lunatics. If you encounter them, don't hesitate to run away. Lin Tien was stunned for a moment, and immediately pulled out the vegetative gentleman sheep who was hanging aside. Uncle Jong, is this what you're talking about? Jong Chungwen was taken aback. He watched Lin Tien pull a man with blank eyes from the ground. This is Logically speaking, there is a third person in this room other than Lin Tien, so he should be able to detect it in an instant. But the person in front of him had been lying on the ground for so long. If Lin Tien hadn't pulled it out by himself, he really wouldn't have noticed. Etc. Something is wrong. Jong Chungwon rubbed his eyes, looked at the man in black evening dress in front of him, seemed to recognize the identity of the other party, and blurted out, one of the 12 apostles of the God sect, the gentleman sheep. As far as he knows, Shenyang has a very high status among the apostles. Although his strength is not the strongest among the 12, the ability of his own awakening makes them a headache for the night watchman. Psychological power can manipulate other people's emotions, and even use spiritual power to forcibly change the soul of the other party, truly killing people invisibly. Jong Chungwon's eyes were full of disbelief. It was this kind of apostle who was moving erratically. Why was Lin Tien dragged him up from the ground like a doll? Little Tien, this is. Why did Shenyang become like this? Jong Chungwon is also a spiritual awakener, so he can clearly sense that Shenyang's soul seems to have been erased, leaving only this body. In Tian City, apart from him, Jong Chungwon, and the several deputy directors below, who else could do this? What's more, the object of erasure is not others, but a gentleman sheep, one of the 12 apostles. The situation is more complicated. Lin Tien held the collar of Shenyang with one hand, and flipped it back casually. Like a marionette, Shenyang was thrown behind him and fell heavily. Face down. The expression remained the same, and there was no reaction. During the mission tonight, therefore, Lin Tien recounted what happened today to Jong Chungwon. A few minutes later, after listening to Lin Tien's description, sitting on the sofa, Jong Chungwon's face was not the slightest bit happy, but he said seriously to Lin Tien, "You mean, after capturing the members of the God cult alive, you noticed the aura of the gentleman sheep when you were about to leave. So you didn't choose to report this news to anyone afterwards, but went alone to pursue the trail of Shenyang, and finally gained a deeper understanding of the sword during your battle, and swung the sword to chop off the soul of Shenyang." Quote. Lin Tien nodded. This is almost the case. It's just nonsense. This kind of thing will not be an example in the future. Jong Chungwon glanced at the vegetative gentry sheep on the ground, unable to utter the earnest words, so he slapped his thigh. The abilities of each of the 12 apostles are quite tricky. How dare you take such a big risk? Although the result is good, but if. When he said this, he stopped suddenly, then changed the subject, and asked aloud, "Xiao Tian, let me ask you, why didn't you tell the news to other people when you noticed this gentleman sheep? You have to know, they are you, teammates. Just because they are my teammates, I didn't choose to tell them." Lin Tien had a serious expression. The apostle is very dangerous. I once fell into a disadvantage when fighting him, but because of this, I am glad that I didn't tell them the news, but faced it alone. Why do you think so? Jong Chungwon stared at Lin Tien with deep eyes. Gao Yuan's third-order spiritual awakener, although his awakened object is not as powerful as the spiritual authority of a squire, it can also play a restraining role in battle. Quote. Chen Haoshuan, a third-level auxiliary awakened person, was once the captain of the night watchman team in Lianshui. He came to Tian City on his own initiative because of the divine religion. He has participated in divine warfare and has rich combat experience. A lifesaver in death. Counting the two of them, wouldn't it be safer? Jong Chungwon looked at Lin Tien worriedly. I know Uncle Jong, but I don't want them to be in danger. Lin Tien touched the back of his head subconsciously, but his eyes did not waver. To be honest, I don't like the feeling of parting from life to death. I can face it alone. You have to know, Lin Tien, you are not the only one who can fight here. Gao Yuan can, Chen Haoshuan can, I can, you Uncle Wong can, anyone in the Night Watch division can do it. The moment they become night watchmen, life and death have long been forgotten. Jong Chungwon sternly said. His eyes were solemn but softened after a long time. Little Tien, you are only 18 years old, and we too have treated you as our own son since you came to old Wang's house. Shouldn't it be too heavy for you to shoulder this responsibility? No. Lin Tien met Uncle Yang's gaze and said, my way is the same. Protect the lights of thousands of families in my heart, and then I will be truly at ease. Xiao Tian. Jong Chungwon's expression was complicated. After a long time, he sighed and laughed at himself. Uncle Jong was in a hurry. I apologize to you for what I just said. I clearly did not participate in this battle. You are the hero who captured the apostle alive, but I stood on the commanding heights and made irresponsible remarks to you. Lin Tien shook his head. Uncle Jong, I know what you mean. I just don't like people around me being in danger, including you and Uncle Wong. If danger comes, I hope that the person standing at the forefront will be myself. Call. He breathed a sigh of relief. His expression gradually became optimistic, and he scolded with a smile. You boy, Uncle Jong and your Uncle Wong are not so useless. Do you need the protection of a junior like you? It's almost as good as we protect you. He patted Lin Tien's shoulder lightly, and his tone became shocked again. Speaking of which, you are still a pervert. It has been exactly 8 days since you woke up. Other awakened ones may have just finished their novice training, but you're fine. Just brush the boss directly. This is a gentleman's sheep. Jong Chungwon exclaimed. This kind of thing is quite explosive for the entire Night Watch division. I'll take Shenyang's body back first. I'll work overtime today and report to my superiors. It's definitely a great achievement. Jong Chungwon laughed, with a smug expression on his face. Does the old guy still have a temper? Uncle Jong, what are you talking about? Lin Tien asked. Oh, it's nothing. Jong Chungwon waved his hands indifferently. It's just a group of old stubborn people who have always been skeptical about your deeds. To put it bluntly, their vision is too small, and they have never seen what is a real genius. When the time comes, contact Lao Wong and ask him to throw the flesh of Shenyang on his face in front of the chief executive. I think he still dares to shout. I'd like to see if it's Lao Wong and I who can't lift a knife anymore, or if they old guys are really drifting away. Jong Chungwon picked up the corpse of Shenyang and said arrogantly, I really have to let them see it. What is a black hand? Lin Tien, one thing to say, his two uncles are really a clean stream in the Night Watch department. I used to be a gangster. Dad, why are you here so late? Zhong Ling stood in front of the bedroom door, staring at Jong Chungwon suspiciously. My old father went out empty-handed, and in less than 10 minutes, he came back with someone. Could it be that something happened in the middle? This. Jong Chungwon subconsciously looked at the sheep in his hand, and quickly explained, don't think about Linger, your father, Be lenient when you confess, and strict when you resist. Dad, you can't use your status as the director to bully the common people, and you still missed. Forget it, surrender yourself, Dad. Jong Chungwon, back to the bedroom. He conveniently hung Shenyang and his coat on the clothes rack, and then dialed Wang Yangshi's phone number. Working overtime in the middle of the night, what's the matter with Lao Zhong? The voice of Wang Yangshi approving the documents came from the phone. It's still about Xiaotian. Or Xiaotian, what the hell did he do again? Wang Yangshi threw the pen in his hand, speculating in his heart. He heard about Lin Tien's team going to encircle and suppress the God sect. It was completed very smoothly. And counting this time. Old Zhong, let me guess for a while, is there a possibility that what you want to tell me is that Xiaotian was singled out by the apostles of the God sect? See for yourself. Jong Chungwon turned on the camera and aimed at the vegetative gentry sheep hanging on the clothes hanger. This is a gentleman's sheep. Wang Yangshi's pupils shrank. The soul has been erased, leaving only a body. Wait a minute, don't tell me I guessed it right. You guessed right. Jong Chungwon nodded. The two chose to remain silent at this moment with a tacit understanding. No one spoke. After half an hour, from Wang Yangshi's side came the sound of a lighter. This kid, you really keep your word. Alas, you've got a lot of talent. Little genius 18, if he is like other awakened ones, he may still be in practice at this time, fighting against some low-level aliens, but he wants to take these responsibilities on himself. Jong Chungwon said with quite a headache. Xiaotian said, this is what he thinks is right. Is that so? Wang Yangshi took a deep breath of the cigarette, exhaled the smoke slowly, and the words Lin Tien said to him at that time rang in his ears. To be the sword-bearer in this world, to protect the lights of thousands of families in your heart. Wang Yangshi smiled wryly. I never thought this day would come so soon. What's wrong? It's nothing. He shook his head and joked, how about it? It's cool to stand on the commanding heights and criticize others without doing anything. Cool. Jong Chungwon slapped the table with his big hands, and snorted coldly, if I didn't want to stare at those things, the God cult. I wish I could lead the team to wipe them out. Who isn't? Wang Yangshi felt the same way. Don't think about that, we have to reflect on it, and don't really let Xiao Tian stand in front of us. At that time, where should we put our old faces? Don't talk about it, I'll send you this gentleman sheep tomorrow, and use him to slap those old guys in the face. No problem, Wang Yangshi echoed. Then I'll hang up first, there are still a lot of documents to be processed, and I have to grant myself 2 days off in a few days to go back and have a good rest. Zhang Chengwen, hang up the phone. The imperial capital, the headquarters of the Night Watch Division. Wang Yangshi put out the cigarette butt, and couldn't help sighing, Xiao Tian, your growth rate is really amazing. He and Zhang Chengwen are both geniuses honed from battles. So they don't advocate storing flowers in greenhouses for growth, there is no way out. Just like when he first became an awakened person, he was either fighting alien species or on the way to fight alien species every day. I thought it was an exaggeration. Unexpectedly, a more important one came today. Before Xinsho village came out, he went directly to be hacked to death by the apostles of the god cult. Fourth Order Awakener. It is no different from A-level aliens. It was the first time I saw the first actual combat and boss training. In the room, Lin Tien didn't sleep, but turned on the computer to check the USB flash drive Uncle Jong gave him. He rubbed his temples and looked at the lit computer screen. The first page of the information is the introduction of the different species. Open black lens bracket abyss alien close black lens bracket. The creatures in the abyss plane are polluted by the abyss cells. No one knows where these creatures came from before they were polluted. They look distorted and there are many kinds. Example, exotic, shark eater. The words about the introduction of the xenomorphs are short but to the point. To put it simply, those who can appear in Daxia through the cracks are generally alien species below B level. The powerful alien species are all located in the lower layer of the abyss, and rarely appear in reality, some are sleeping, and some are waiting for an opportunity. Records of the Night Watchman. The highest level kill in history was an S-rank alien, which looked exactly like an octopus, with a body size of nearly 100 meters, covered with black and sharp fangs, code-named Desoy. That was the first time people saw such a huge alien species, and it also refreshed their understanding of the abyss plane. When it first appeared, it was accompanied by an abyss crack comparable to a building, almost destroying half of the city. Fortunately, the backbone of the Night Watch division was dispatched, seriously injured the opponent, and killed him while chasing to the abyss plane. After that, the alien race was like the god who was seriously injured and left at that time. Alien species above A level rarely appear around the cracks, and the ones that come out are all below B level. Is that so? Lin Tien watched carefully. In recent years, the highest Night Watchman has only killed one A-level humanoid alien. There is also a reference picture attached above. The slime-covered body is ferocious and crazy, with a pair of rotten wings growing behind it, and the pupils are dark and hollow, almost like a zombie. The killer Wang Yangshi, Zhang Chengwen, Uncle Jong and Uncle Wong. Lin Tien looked at the prompt at the bottom of the picture, and it was specially marked with a red circle and an exclamation point. Forehead. They must have done the right thing. Turn to the next page, which begins to preach the origin of the abyss. Abyss plane. It descended on Blue Star without warning 100 years ago. It is basically constructed of black abyss gravel and slag stone wool, and cannot be destroyed. In the abyss plane, everything around it cannot be illuminated by lights. With the establishment of the Night Watch division, generations of awakened people began to explore the abyss plane, and successfully brought out the first forbidden item in a treasure chest on the abyss plane, first floor, 40 years ago. Over the past 100 years, the Night Watch division has gradually figured out the general situation in the abyss plane. First of all, there are many treasure chests made of obsidian in the abyss plane. It is unknown who made and placed the treasure chests. Forbidden items and some resource materials are obtained from the treasure chests. Secondly, the abyss plane is currently known to have 6 layers, but this does not mean that the abyss has only 6 layers, but that awakened people who are as strong as the 7th level can only explore the 6th layer, and the body has reached its limit further down. According to the description of the awakened person, there is almost no light on the 6th floor, and he can feel that every alien species around him is like a giant, and the level is conservatively estimated to be above a level. Furthermore, the abyss is rich in oxygen, and the air is also filled with a large number of abyssal cells. Once ordinary people inhale it, they will be infected, ranging from unconsciousness to death on the spot or even degenerating into alien species. Even the awakened ones cannot completely resist the damage brought about by the cells of the abyss. Easy to understand. Ordinary people enter the first floor and lose 10 drops of blood per second, 3 san value. The awakened person enters the first floor, and loses 3 drops of blood per second, with a san value of 0.5. If the san value drops to a negative number, there is a great probability of becoming a different species. Calamity Abyss. Seeing this, Lin Tien's cognition was subverted by half. Although he had learned about some of them from Uncle Wong in advance. But he knew many parts for the first time. For example, the pollution contained in the cells of the abyss can degenerate the awakened into a distorted alien covered in black spikes as in the picture at that time. When it is polluted by the cells of the abyss, in other words, when the san value drops to a negative number, even a Superman will be transformed into a different species. Lin Tien's mind is heavy. He thought those alien species were just the original product of the abyss plane. I didn't expect that even the awakened could turn into alien species in the abyss plane. Then the humanoid A-level alien just now, could it be that it was also a night watchman when he was alive? He devoted himself to Da Sha during his lifetime, but turned into a different species after his death. Presumably his teammates felt very complicated seeing this scene. Killing is certain, but the process must be extremely difficult. But look back and think about it carefully. If the other party was an awakened person, why would there be a pair of wings on his back? Never mind. Didn't think about it that much. Lin Tien continued to read. The document Uncle Jong gave him was about 6 or 7 pages long, almost all of which were about the abyss plane. Flipping to the end, Lin Tien's eyes lit up. This article records a legend about the abyss plane. Rumor has it that when the night watchman entered the 6th floor of the abyss for the first time, his visibility around him was no more than 2 meters. Under such circumstances, the 7th level awakened person saw a light below the 7th floor of the abyss, like the eyes of a creature. The light was very bright, the only light that could penetrate the abyss. The faint blue, like a soul, illuminates most of the bottom 6 floors of the abyss. According to the 7th level awakened person, the source of the light is at least 2 kilometers down. Next, a horrific scene happened. When he was about to return, he heard the cry of an unknown creature. Like a dragon or a dragon. Hearing the sound and looking, that is, at the lowest level of the abyss, the 7th level awakener vaguely saw everything around him through the eyes of the giant. The bottom of the abyss. It is a huge monster with countless distorted faces. Some are like worms covered with countless tentacles, while others are pitch-black brains that can fly. There are indescribable things everywhere, like a swarm of insects, densely packed. Just thinking about it is chilling. And they all crawled around a dragon that resembled a flood dragon. According to the dictation, the night watchman made a bold guess. The alien dragon lurking in the lowest layer is the master of the entire abyss plane. What's even more strange is that when the 7th level awakened person walked out of the abyss cells in the body actually began to actively divide, polluting the awakened person in an instant. Even though the Night Watch division tried its best to suppress it, it only managed to prevent it from degenerating into a different species, but it was irreversibly traumatized mentally. A year later, he completely lost his sanity. Someone once questioned this content, thinking that since the other party is already crazy, many of what he said before are not credible. But after that, even Chairman Wong Yangshi personally dived into the abyss. When I reached the 6th floor and looked down, I didn't find anything unusual. Since then, the authenticity of the content has not been known. The content is gone here. Lin Tien's scalp felt a little numb. What are the things at the bottom of the abyss plane? A flying human brain. Is this a creature that people can imagine? In comparison, the berserk pink pig is so cute. There is only so much information about the plane of the abyss. The rest was sorted out by Uncle Jong specially, about the divine religion. Little information is available. Most of them are speculations and preparations for the religion. The only thing that interests Lin Tien is the apostle. Watched for a while, he simply understood something. The 12 apostles are named according to the zodiac. For example, the apostle I met today corresponds to a sheep in the zodiac, and a devil sheep pattern is tattooed on the back of his hand. Awakening. spiritual authority, ability, manipulate emotions and feelings, even human souls. Countermeasures. As spiritually awakened people, you can use your own powerful mental power to contend with it, or rely on your own strong willpower to break free from the opponent's control. Other methods are still being searched. Apart from Shenyang, there are currently 5 apostles known to the Night Watchman. Remembering the identity of the other party and the ability of the awakened object, Lin Tien turned off the computer. He took a deep breath. His head was full of scenes from the last layer of the abyss plane. Hiss. The result is, stayed up all night. The next day, swing the sword once and get the reward, a sword intention. Close black lens bracket. Currently, the sword has been swung 1,468 times. Close black lens bracket. Lin Tien was sweating profusely when he walked out of the balcony. He wielded his sword all night long. Because he doesn't think about anything when he swings the sword. It was during this period that Lin Tien discovered the changes in his sword swing. The system changed the reward obtained by swinging the sword from sword energy to sword intention. If sword energy can temper his body and muscles, then sword intention can actively improve his sword practice and attainments. It only took over 400 swings. Lin Tien had already discovered that the feeling when he held the sword was completely different from yesterday. My understanding of the sword is obviously deeper. If he could go back to yesterday, he was completely confident that he could deal with Shenyang within 3 minutes. The combat power is roughly equivalent to 1.5 Shenyang. I took a simple bath and warmed up a glass of milk. After drinking, Lin Tien put on a loose sweater and got ready to go out. Today is Wednesday. Of course, he wasn't going to go to school because he had already asked for leave in advance. I called my class teacher at 3 in the morning and said I had a stomachache. A very reasonable reason for taking leave. Ding. The bell rings. Lin Tien picked up the phone and answered the call. Xiaotian, are you up? Gao Yuan's voice came from the phone. Already ready to go downstairs. Lin Tien tilted his head, clamped his phone between his legs, and subconsciously opened the door. But it was all in vain. Ouch, I almost forgot, there is no door to the house. That's fine, I'll wait for you downstairs. Hang up the phone. Lin Tien walked out of the house. Last night, Gao Yuan said that he would take him to see someone who could help him in kendo. Outside the community, a black car parked on the side of the road, obviously much more low-key than yesterday. Lin Tien opened the car door and sat on the passenger seat. Where's Sister Qing's car? The lease period is up, please return it to the leasing department. Gao Yuan pointed to his black car. This one is better, that one is too conspicuous, and my car can be driven safely. Lin Tien was stunned and said in astonishment, I thought Sister Qing bought that car. How is that possible? Gao Yuan shook his head, because I had a lot of missions before. Zhao King said that renting a car would be a good thing, so she went to get one and returned it when it was due this morning. Lin Tien, it turned out to be rented. He admitted that he was quite surprised when he saw the sports car yesterday. I thought to myself that the night watchman's treatment was very good, and all of them were so rich. It turned out to be rented. Much more reasonable. But it should be said that this black car fits the temperament of a night watchman. Let's go, Xiaotian. I agreed yesterday that in order to make up for the barbecue, I will take you to meet someone today. Gao Yuan started the car with an intriguing smile on his lips. Is the other party also a night watchman? Lin Tien turned on the air conditioner. It's over 30 degrees outside, and without air conditioning, the car would be almost as hot as a steamer. Gao Yuan thought about Lin Tien's question for a while, and then replied, it shouldn't matter. Should. Yes, it should be. Gao Yuan nodded. The other party has retired from injury. Is the injury going away? Lin Tien murmured. You'll find out when you get there. The two came to a dilapidated neighborhood. Lin Tien looked around. Most of the people living here were old people, and occasionally he could see a few summer beds hung on the railing outside. Hey, isn't this lofty? What's the matter? Come and see Lao Hu. Downstairs in the community, the old man sitting on the rocking chair saw Gao Yuan driving over, and greeted him warmly. I haven't been here recently, why did you go? Gao Yuan rolled down the car window and said with a smile, I have dealt with some things recently, let's not talk about Halu, I will bring you some tea another day. Uncle Lu waved the cattail fan in his hand, and he didn't care. Go, go, Lao who has been talking about you these days. Okay, Uncle Lu, let's go first. Along the way, Lin Tien saw many old people who knew Gao Yuan, and after seeing the black car, they greeted Gao Yuan from afar. Go to the innermost part of the community. Gao Yuan took Lin Tien to the second floor, and was about to take out the key to open the door, when he found that the door had been opened from the inside. The rusty iron door was slowly pushed open, and an old man who lost his right arm walked out from inside. Master. Gao Yuan looked at the old man in front of him and said respectfully. Master. Lin Tien stood aside. Didn't expect that the person the captain brought him to meet was actually his master. Never heard of him much before. Come to yourself. The old man didn't answer, but looked down at Gao Yuan's empty hands. What's the matter? You're getting more and more unruly. No way. Gao Yuan turned sideways, revealing Lin Tien behind him. Didn't you always bring someone here? White-eyed wolf, you are uneasy and kind. The old man glanced at Lin Tien, but soon he frowned tightly. You have practiced swords before. Practice a little bit. A little bit. The momentum is as sharp as a sword. It doesn't seem like you can only do a little bit. A trace of curiosity rose in the old man's eyes, and he asked, how long have you been using the sword? 8 or 9 days, Lin Tien said truthfully. He wasn't lying about that. He really only swung the sword for 8 or 9 days. After all, it has only been 9 days since the awakening of the system. Bajudian, don't tease me. The old man waved his hand and explained. I have used a sword before, and the aura exuded from you, let alone Bajudian. I don't think anyone can practice it in 89 years to this extent. Seeing this, Gao Yuan helped explain. Master, Ren Xiaodian didn't lie to you. He became a night watchman 9 days ago and became an awakened person. He just became a regular the day before yesterday. You kid is teasing me, I'll beat you to death. The old man stared at Gao Yuan, turned around and walked back to the house. Hurry up and get in the house. The cool breeze finally came and all ran out. The two entered the house. Lin Tien stood aside and whispered, Captain, who is your master? A person who can tell at a glance that he has used a sword and has extraordinary attainments must not be a simple person. What's more, the other party was once a night watchman. Gao Yuan smiled after hearing this. The one who went in just now is one of the top 3 speakers of the Night Watch Division, a 7th level awakener, and Hu Yuanfang, a sword idiot. Hearing the word Zhanqi, Lin Tien also became interested. What kind of person can be called a sword idiot, not to mention that the other party is a 7th level awakened person? It's a pity that my master lost his arm 26 years ago in order to save a burden, and what happened to be the right hand holding the sword. Having said that, Gao Yuan looked a little disappointed. What kind of alien species can hurt a 7th level awakened person? Lin Tien wondered. S-level alien, codenamed Desoi. Gao Yuan replied. Desoi, isn't that the octopus I saw on the data yesterday? Unexpectedly, it was such a coincidence that the old man in front of him was the senior who had killed S-level aliens. Follow Gao Yuan to sit on the sofa. The old man picked up the remote control on his own, and picked a crosstalk channel he liked to watch. In front of the sofa, Lin Tien looked it over carefully. The one sitting next to him was the former chairman of the Night Watch Division, a man who was regarded as the pillar of the Great Shah. He is 70 or 80 years old, but his body is still handsome, even half a head taller than Gao Yuan's height of 1.8 meters, similar to him. No wrinkles can be seen, but his head is already full of white hair. After a long time, Hu Yuanfang finally said, Go, little fat, there are guests at home, let's get someone something to drink. Okay, master. Gao Yuan got up and walked towards the kitchen. Fatty. Lin Tien sat in the corner of the sofa in a regular manner, and couldn't help but glance at Gao Yuan. What's the matter, young man? I'm curious why he is called Xiaopeng. You might as well elaborate. Lin Tien moved his body. Seeing this, Hu Yuanfang grinned and said, he is the child I rescued back then. He was a little fat man at the time. After he came out with a big snot, he came to me and begged me to take him as an apprentice. No way, just take it. After speaking, he took out a photo from the drawer, on which was a little fat man with a runny nose and a popsicle in his hand. This is him. After Lin Tien finished watching, he opened his mouth wide and showed an incredulous expression. Real or fake? He glanced at Gao Yuan in the kitchen, and then at the photo in Hu Yuanfang's hand. This change is too big. Master, why did you take out my childhood photos? Gao Yuan came out of the kitchen with a plate in his hand. Isn't the photo just for people to see? Hu Yuanfang said angrily, it's still cute when I was a child. He picked up the kettle and poured a cup of hot water, and took a small sip. Hu Yuanfang frowned, feeling that the water was a little weird. Then, he suddenly looked at Gao Yuan. Damn. What the hell? You won't open that box of tea in the cabinet, will you? Yes. Gao Yuan didn't realize the seriousness of the matter at all. Isn't that tea? So I opened it. Then there's only a little left in it, and I want to keep it for soaking when Auntie Jong comes next door. Hu Yuanfang cursed. How much more? Gone. Ha ha ha, you did a good job. Hu Yuanfang smiled, and then pulled open the drawer with his left hand. Come on, this is a picture of him wetting the bed when he was a child, and showing off his calf naked on the bed. Hey, master, it's wrong, it's wrong. Hearing this, Gao Yuan's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. Master, we have been in love for more than 20 years, we can't kill them all. You drank all the tea that I prepared just to pick up girls, you're a traitor. Speaking of which, Hu Yuanfang was going to show the photo to Lin Tien. Come on young man, this is your captain. No, master. Don't stop me. If you stop me, be careful not to think of love as a teacher, I will chop you with my left hand. 2 boxes of longjing. Sigh, my good apprentice, how can I harm you? Hu Yuanfang changed his attitude sharply, squinting his eyes and said with a smile, what photo? I'm so confused, I almost forgot, you don't have a calf. Ah, I made a mistake, it's because I can't hold a sword with my left hand. Then there are still no calves. Gao Yuan took 2 steps back, looking at Hu Yuanfang's left hand, hesitant to speak. I'm not kidding, I really can't pick it up. The atmosphere became dull for a while. Gao Yuan stared blankly at the empty sleeve, feeling very uncomfortable. His master could have been radiant and a hero admired by all. Now it's because he can't even hold a sword. Master, yes. Oh, forget it. Hu Yuanfang spit on his hand, and wiped it on his head coolly. It's a big deal, you're already a night watchman, why? Do you still want to be that little kid who followed master and cried without giving candy? Your team members are still here, you don't want face, I want more. Besides, what's so good about being a night watchman? These are what you young people should do. I've long been bored and tired of being a night watchman. I don't want to stay in that place for a long time. I have worked for most of my life. Oh, you really, don't say anything. Hu Yuanfang scolded, but his eyes were full of tenderness. Master, FK off, don't act like I'm about to die. Hu Yuanfang rolled his eyes at him, and then said, don't you say that this young man also uses a sword, come and let me see if I can guide you. Gao Yuan knew the purpose of this trip, he restrained his emotions, and turned his body sideways to make way for Lin Tien. Master, he is Lin Tien, the top talent in Great Sha. The top genius. Hu Yuanfang raised his eyebrows and asked, oh, how many geniuses are there, tell me. Gao Yuan said bluntly without restraint, it's even more genius than the current chairman Wong and director Jong. Better than those 2 little guys. Hu Yuanfang was a little surprised when he heard this, and the years passed in his eyes, and the previous scenes appeared in front of him. Those 2 little guys were very crazy back then. According to you, they are stronger than them. It's more than a star and a half. Gao Yuan continued, Master, have you ever seen a person who has become an awakened person for less than 9 days, and his strength is not weaker than an ordinary 3rd-order awakened person? Oh, Hu Yuanfang's dusty eyes seemed to be shaken when he heard this. Both swordsmen and geniuses, he seemed to be reminded of his younger self. I have loved the world since I was a child, and dreamed of becoming a hero. By chance, he came across the scene of the night watchman beheading alien species. Back then, technology was not as advanced as it is now. In order to become like them, Hu Yuanfang immediately ran away from home, insisting on clinging to the night watchman. In desperation, he followed into the headquarters of the Night Watch Division. There, he became an awakened with a sword. From then on, he could practice sword 24 hours a day without eating, drinking, or sleeping. The longest one lasted a week. Gradually, the sword seemed to be more important than his life. Without a sword, you can't live without a heart, but with a sword, you can kill demons and eliminate demons. Once the alien species appeared, he raised his hand and chopped it off with just one sword. So far, a sword idiot has appeared in Daxia. Memories suddenly. Hu Yuanfang recalled the present from the memories of decades ago. He was stunned, and immediately said, "Little fat, you can sit here, I will go to the kitchen to practice with this Lin Tien." Go to the kitchen to practice. The kitchen is big enough. The two went to the kitchen, and Hu Yuanfang closed the door forcefully. It's just the two of us now, we should be quiet when practicing swords, and we don't like outsiders, at least it used to be like this. He looked at Lin Tien, and laughed a little self-deprecatingly. Senior Hu has the same habits as the younger generation. Lin Tien said solemnly, "Seniors and juniors, I'm an old man now, and I have nothing but this old house, just call me Lao Hu." "Ah, Senior Hu, you boy, oh, forget it." Hu Yuanfang waved his hand and asked, "Where's your sword?" At this, as he spoke, Lin Tien took out a wooden sword from the bandage. Wooden sword. Hu Yuanfang felt a little interest in his heart. This is my awakening object. It's really strange that this sword is an awakened object. Envy flashed in Hu Yuanfang's eyes. A sword, I thought I wanted my awakened object to become a sword in my dreams. Even if it's a paper sword, it turned out to be a supernatural one. Talking to himself, he quickly raised his head and said expectantly, "You wave it, I can feel that you are born with sword bones, and you are a good young man with a sword." "Good." Lin Tien nodded, and then swung an ordinary sword. It happened to be this sword. Hu Yuanfang, who used to be a sword idiot, saw the difference. Sword intent. Is this sword intent? You can do it, you kid, you actually comprehended the sword intent. Lin Tien was also surprised. He just attached a slight trace of sword intent to the tip of the sword, and the opponent could feel it so quickly. Not bad for being a sword idiot. I'm afraid his kendo attainments are still higher than his. You comprehended such a sword intent at a young age. May I ask, does your sword intent have a name? Hu Yuanfang asked repeatedly as if he had seen something precious. This sword intent is called Xiaoyao. Lin Tien withdrew his sword. Xiaoyao. This is really a powerful sword intent. Hu Yuanfang nodded. You are really a genius. No, you should be a monster. I comprehended such a profound sword intent at a young age. Hu Yuanfang said, with longing and regret in his eyes, it's a pity, I can't hold the sword anymore. Senior Hu, you are honored as the great Sha sword crazy, but why can't you hold the sword? Is it because you lost your right hand? People who also use swords can often open their hearts. This is a habit among their swordsmen, regardless of age. Lin Tien doesn't believe that a dignified sword idiot, a person who sees a sword more important than his own life, will give up the sword because of the loss of his right hand. Not only can't hold the sword. Hu Yuanfang smiled bitterly, stretched out his left hand to pick up the kitchen knife on the stove. I can't even lift the kitchen knife. As soon as he touched it, his left hand trembled uncontrollably. His breathing became disordered, and it gradually improved until he put down the kitchen knife. Look, I can't even pick up these things, otherwise why would I know Mrs. Jong next door? I don't have the nerve to tell Xiaopong about this. Hu Yuanfang showed a smile on his face. Because you use a sword, I don't know what's wrong. It seems that I have found a bosom friend who can open my heart, and I am not afraid of your jokes. How come? Lin Tien respectfully said. It's an honor for this junior to meet Senior Jian Kai. Why not use the sword today, and I will have a good chat with Senior. He saw the nod in the other party's heart. If it is untied, maybe you can pick up the sword in your later years, and fulfill your big wish. Ha 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 ha, okay. Hu Yuanfang nodded again and again, then have a good chat. The relationship between the two is like old friends who haven't seen each other for many years. Senior Hu might as well say something about the past. Say something. Hu Yuanfang thought for a while, looked through the small window at Gao Yuan who was sitting on the sofa, still feeling guilty. Have you ever known your captain? Brother Yuan. Yes, it's this little fat guy. Hu Yuanfang's eyes wandered, as if he had gone back to the time when he was a swordsman. It was him who made me feel cared for the first time from a lunatic whose sword is more important than my life. That year, the S-class mutant, Desoy, walked out of the cracks, the whole city fell into panic, and countless families were destroyed. I alone wielded a sword and chopped the opponent into serious injuries. Hu Yuanfang spoke in a long tone. Who would have thought that the other party would actually fight for my life? He kidnapped a large number of civilians in order to use the cracks to return to the abyssal plane. On the way, I saved everyone except one. That person is the captain. Lin Tien took over the words. Yes, he was your captain, but at that time he was still a little fat guy who was not as tall as my legs. Hu Yuanfang recalled, he was the only one left at that time, and his body was as small as a grain of rice compared to the alien species. Lin Tien stood there, quietly in front of a listener. In the end, Desoi retreated into the abyss. He said here, his emotions started to fluctuate, when everyone around me was shouting not to let me in, because a child is not worth it. Those who were rescued were begging me not to leave, but the little fat man who was captured was the only one who was crying and asking me to give up on him. Yes, I was already a 7th level awakened person at that time. How could I hear it wrong? Even the little fat man was begging himself not to go in. He said that I was a hero and needed to save more people. As Hu Yuanfang spoke, he suddenly laughed out loud, and a wrinkle appeared on his resolute face. At that moment, I rushed into the abyss plane, not only because of my duty as a night watchman, but also because of the little fat man who entered what I said before. In the abyssal plane, Desoi's injuries recovered very quickly, but my strength was limited due to the influence of the abyssal cells. You should know that when ordinary people enter the abyssal plane, even the first layer of mind and body will be quickly eroded by the abyss cells, but the little fat guy managed to reach the critical point of the second layer. There, I saved the little fat guy at the cost of my right hand. Hu Yuanfang looked at his empty right hand, but there was no trace of sadness on his face. I thought this little fat guy was going to die, but I kept encouraging him, using my sword intent to wrap him up as much as possible to prevent him from absorbing any more. Those contaminated cells. Who would have thought that instead of thanking him for being saved, he cried and apologized to me, begging me to take back my sword intention and leave him alone. Hearing this, Lin Tien's mood became complicated. What he heard before was just a skeleton, but what he heard now was real flesh and blood. Senior Hu, do you regret it? Lin Tien looked extremely serious. Regret? Never. Hu Yuanfang shook his head and continued. After I came out, when everyone saw my missing right hand, instead of cheering, they started accusing me and Xiaopong. Some people are saying that I sacrificed the elder to protect the younger, and that I was a selfish person regardless of the overall situation. They said that I cut off my own future for a child. Hu Yuanfang didn't care about this. He seemed to have long forgotten the pain in his right arm. But most of them pointed the finger of responsibility at Xiaopong, saying that he destroyed Daxia's sword fanatics. No one noticed that Xiaopong's body already contained an excessive amount of abyssal cells at that time, and even his spirit was gone. There were slight cracks. He clenched his fists in distress. I took him to my residence. There, he was holding me tightly with both hands and still saying sorry to me, but I just said my duty as a night watchman. That's when he smiled. He was only 4 years old at the time. He smiled and asked me not to worry. He said he would not die and would not live up to everything I did. He said that when he gets better, he will also become a night watchman and a hero like me, so that others don't have to worry about him, and he can use his own power to protect others. Surprise appeared on Hu Yuanfang's face. You know, this is just a 4-year-old kid. At this age, others are still running around in their belly pockets, but he has already piled countless responsibilities on himself. After that day, because of my right hand, I resigned as speaker, donated all my savings to the city destroyed by Desoi, and came here with Xiaopong. Hu Yuanfang looked at the house. Gao Yuan grew up here. He worked very hard. But God has no eyes, Xiaopong has no talent for using swords, and he hasn't made any progress in swords in a few years. Hu Yuanfang showed a kind smile. I know he is not stupid, he works harder than anyone else, he was even more obsessed and crazy than me back then, just to make up for my lost right hand. But he didn't know. I never blamed him. I never did. At that moment, I realized that I was not that obsessed with swords. This little fat man seemed to be more important than swords. The little chubby thief is funny and likes to cry, but every time he cries secretly, because he doesn't want me to know that he cries because the blisters left by his sword practice are worn out, and he cries in pain. After many years, I am no longer the famous sword idiot in Daxia, and I can't lift a sword with my left hand, but Xiaopong has become a night watchman. Hu Yuanfang's eyes showed satisfaction, but I think this is enough, but he didn't. His talent for using a sword is 0, but his talent is read in the test. He is a genius. Everyone knows it, but he doesn't know it. My right hand seems to have become a knot in his heart, and it has become heavier as time goes by, which is why he has been stuck in the 3rd level. After Hu Yuanfang said this, he stopped talking. And Lin Tien also learned about the real Gao Yuan in this story. He suddenly remembered the word, cumbersome, that Gao Yuan said just now when he introduced Hu Yuanfang to kill, da soi. Inexplicably makes people feel a little bitter. In these years, I have told him countless times, and I said that I don't blame him, and I won't do it before. Hu Yuanfang snorted, and cursed, this kid just doesn't believe it, and he doesn't listen to it. Grandmas. After he finished speaking, he looked at Lin Tien, I've told you so much, it's a kind of confession. In the end, I can't let you come here for nothing, can I? Hu Yuanfang grinned and reminded, you and I walk on different paths, and I am no longer a sword idiot, so I can say that there is very little I can teach you. Although I can't hold a sword, I can hold a branch. Hu Yuanfang opened the kitchen door, then walked to the windowsill, and broke off a branch with his hands. Young man, look after me. I'll just wave it once. How much you can realize is up to you. After he finished speaking, he picked up the branch with difficulty. Swipe down. Lin Tien watched the branches fall. This sword bears too many emotions. The sword fell very slowly. It seemed that it was Hu Yuanfang's last reluctance to give up the sword. Lin Tien knows. What Hu Yuanfang said to himself just now seemed to be talking about Captain Gao Yuan, but he was actually talking about himself back then. It was he who put down the sword with his own hands, and the infatuation in his heart has long since faded away. The person who once regarded the sword as his life now has something more important than the sword. How can I hold a sword now? But this. As long as the other party thinks it's worth it, that's enough. Congratulations to the host for successfully enlightening through the experience of sword crazy, Hu Yuanfang. Reward: years of swordsmanship. Lin Tien looked at Hu Yuanfang blankly. This sword seems to have left a scratch in the air. Lin Tien is clear. What is left is the past years of Jian Kai. A sword idiot who used to be famous in Daxia, now he has become a retired old man who can hardly even pick up a tree branch. The branches fell very slowly in Lin Tien's eyes. But in the eyes of others, it is only a moment. There was a snap. Branches fell to the ground. Hu Yuanfang's face was filled with bitterness, he smiled with difficulty, it's a shame, it's really a shame. After he finished speaking, he didn't notice that Gao Yuan beside him was already in tears. The captain of a night watchman squad, a man who is extremely gentle to everyone. At this moment, it was hard to hold back, and tears fell like raindrops. He wished that this sword could be slower, rather than a fleeting drop. At this moment, he is not the night watchman Gao Yuan, but the runny-nosed Gao Xiaopong who is following Jian Kai. Master, Gao Yuan wiped away his tears with his sleeve, tremblingly looking at Hu Yuanfang. The other party just sighed helplessly, and immediately said, why are you crying? What's there to cry about? It's just an arm. Besides, I'm tired of talking about night watchmen. Lin Tien stood aside, he knew the purpose of Hu Yuanfang's words. After working for most of my life, don't you still live in this kind of place as a retired old man in the end? Those are what you young people should do. Hu Yuanfang said earnestly. Gao Yuan, I don't want you to accomplish anything because of me. You just need to do what you should do. There is no need to blame yourself or feel guilty. Everything is my own choice. Get out of the neighborhood. The two sat in the car and neither spoke. Gao Yuan took out a cigarette and was about to light it, but after hesitating for a while, he put it down. Xiaotian, you said that my master can't hold a sword now. From a sword idiot to an old man who can't even take care of himself, all of this seems to be caused by me. Lin Tien looked out of the window. He vaguely saw the deepest part of the community, a figure was silently watching here. It's Hu Yuanfang, Captain, Senior who has never blamed you. Lin Tien looked away, and the old man also turned back to the room. This is all his choice. He put down his sword and made you his only concern as an old man. Hu Yuanfang was the only one left in the room. He hummed a little tune leisurely. Then he opened an old closet covered with pulp. A wooden box lay quietly in the center without any clothes on it. It seemed that this cabinet was specially prepared for storing wooden boxes. Hu Yuanfang looked at the wooden box quietly. It's packed here. Once is his everything. He stretched out his hand to touch it, but stopped in midair, watched the wooden box say something silently, and finally withdrew his hand slowly. Closed the cabinet door. Then he walked to the sofa and drank the hot tea in the pot in one gulp. Under the scouring of the years, those have already become a thing of the past. And why didn't he let go? Return home. Lin Tien, who picked up the sword again, had a new understanding. Swordsmanship of time and time. He looked at the prompt on the system. This is the sword move he learned from sword idiot Hu Yuanfang. Lin Tien walked to the balcony. The smooth tiles were covered with dense scratches. This was caused by him swinging his sword thousands of times. Shocking. Lin Tien picked up the wooden sword, raised it and lowered it. This sword, telling about Jian Qi's life. Tell how he picked up the sword and when he put it down. The sword rises and the sword falls. It's done in the blink of an eye. But the artistic conception contained in it really makes Lin Tien feel obscure. As expected, Lin Tien wasn't too disappointed. On the contrary, I think this is a test for him. Just learning sword moves is not enough. He also needs to make the sword moves he uses have spirit. Swing the sword once and get the reward, a sword intention. Close black lens bracket. Swing the sword once and get the reward, a sword intention. Close black lens bracket. ... Unknowingly, when Lin Tien came to his senses again, he had swung the wooden sword hundreds of times. Currently, the sword has been swung 2042 times. Close black lens bracket. It was late at night. But Lin Tien was not tired at all. He used the time sword technique again, but he couldn't do it like Hu Yuanfang did in the morning. This sword has never reached the level of being indifferent to the years. The form exists, but God does not. 7 days passed in a flash. Lin Tien's cloudy eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of time. He sheathed his sword. Looking around, he saw that most of the scratched floor tiles were now broken. Go to the bedroom. Lin Tien picked up his phone and wanted to check the time. He widened his eyes and looked at the date above in disbelief. 7 days. He actually unknowingly wielded the sword for 7 days, but he himself didn't notice it at all. It shouldn't be. How could it have passed 7 days? Lin Tien was puzzled. Why did he feel like only 1 day had passed? I sat on the bed and thought for a moment. It doesn't seem that hard to accept. Although it took a little longer. But fortunately, his gains are not small. He has almost understood the obscure swordsmanship of years. Among them, those artistic conceptions that seem to transcend time have been mastered. 7 days. He only realized that he was trapped in the interlayer of time, and everything around him slowed down. Wait for him to come out of the mezzanine. The practice of swordsmanship over the years has quietly reached Dacheng. Not only that, Lin Tien raised his hand and the panel appeared. Currently, the sword has been swung 6,240 times. Close black lens bracket. In 7 days, he swung his sword nearly 4,000 times. It was all done unconsciously. No wonder I woke up with tiles all around me cracked. With more than 6,000 sword intentions, his swordsmanship has reached the level of proficiency. His ability to understand swords seems to have undergone earth-shaking changes. Lin Tien had an illusion. If you get this kind of sword move next time, it only takes him 10 minutes to reach enlightenment with ease. Lin Tien. At this moment, he seemed to hear someone calling him. Jong was standing outside the door at this time. 8 days. This kid disappeared silently for 7 days. After teaching her how to practice swordsmanship, she disappeared. No calls were answered, messages were not returned, and no one was even seen at home. Seeing Lin Tien walk out of the house, Jong was stunned for a moment, then asked angrily, "What have you been doing these days?" "Stay at home," Lin Tien said honestly. "You're talking nonsense. I just went to your house a few days ago, and it was clear that no one was there." Jong didn't believe what Lin Tien said. "I'm really at home. Lin Tien pointed to the bedroom. I've been on the balcony the past few days and haven't come out. Where are you lying? Jong Ling crossed his arms and stared at Lin Tien suspiciously. What normal person can stay in that place for 7 days at a stretch? Me. Lin Tien chuckled. At that time, I suddenly felt something. I took the sword and went in to realize it. When I came back to my senses, I am now. Enlightenment. Jong Ling was shaken. She really didn't pay attention to the balcony before. After all, no one thought that a living person could stay on the balcony for as long as 7 days. I realized a very awesome sword move. Lin Tien smiled proudly. Accept me as your big brother, and I will protect you from now on. Roll the ball, you. Jong Ling glanced at Lin Tien and said angrily, you are back just in time. Military training will be held in a few days. Some people organized a dinner party and wanted to have fun before the military training. Just today, are you going? There are 5 days left until the god recovers. Close black lens bracket. Reunion. Lin Tien glanced at Jong Ling, who was only wearing a plain school uniform, and had no intention of going to the party at all. Aren't you going? You've been missing for 7 days, I don't care. Jong Ling stared at him, and stomped on the other person's foot. They invited me before, but I haven't replied yet. If you go, the two of us will go together. Quote. I can do anything. Lin Tien scratched his head, put on a t-shirt and was ready to go out. Let's go. Go fart. Jong Ling pulled Lin Tien to the door of his house. Come with me, I'll clean up. Huh, let's forget it. Lin Tien looked at Jong Ling's house hesitantly, feeling a little worried in his heart. Come in, my dad went back to Silly yesterday, and he is expected to come back in 4 or 5 days. Say it sooner. Hearing this, Lin Tien's steps became arrogant. He opened the door and sat on the sofa familiarly like his own home. Jong Ling glanced at him, then quickly got into her bedroom. I'm changing clothes, you are not allowed to come in. What? Lin Tien pretended not to hear clearly, and went to the bedroom door to add, say it again. Click. Door locked. Lin Tien. No, there are several meanings for the door lock so fast. What about the most basic trust between people? Am I the type to open your door? Don't think I don't know what you're thinking, just wait outside. Jong Ling's voice came from the bedroom. I know. Lin Tien sat on the sofa with his hands behind his head and flicked his phone boredly. Just opened a short video software. He was startled by the contents inside. Take another look at the publisher's IP, it's Lin Shui City next door. In the video, more than a dozen abyssal cracks appear in the city center, the sky is gray, and black lightning is hidden in the clouds, like the end of the world. Dozens of night watchmen guarded the gap there, but there were still alien species rushing out. The screams continued, and the evacuated people poured out to the outside like a tide. The release date was yesterday morning. Looking at the sky above Tian City, it was peaceful. But Lin Tien knew, it's just the calm before the storm. There are still 5 days left in the recovery of the gods, and those cracks are just a precursor. The real disaster is yet to come. Click. The bedroom door was pushed open. Jong Ling was wearing a white dress, a pair of cool high-heeled sandals, light makeup on her face, and a light blue gemstone necklace on her fair skin. This kind of pure and elegant beauty is the white moonlight of many people's youth. Lin Tien's eyes stayed on the other person, and he didn't speak for a long time. Feeling Lin Tien's gaze, Zhong Lingqiao blushed, but she didn't know what to say. He stroked his chin, pondered for a while, and then said, fat. Zhong Ling, roll. Zhong Ling gave Lin Tien a hard look, and walked in front angrily, hurry up and leave. Have you been secretly eating hamburgers these days? Go away. Then, sweet potatoes, rose suddenly on Zhong Ling's head. Let's go, Bailu Park. The men passing by all looked sideways, and even the old man couldn't help but stare at the beautiful figure in the white dress fascinated. As the saying goes, a man is a teenager until he dies. To be honest, if it was released before, this appearance would make him willing to hand in the real estate certificate. But not now. Want to ask why? Because the real estate certificate has long been cheated. For a moment, Zhong Ling's figure became a temporary beauty in the park. But when they saw a boy in a white t-shirt following him, their eyes suddenly became hostile. Grandmas, what is going on in the world now? Wearing a white t-shirt with 9 yuan and 9 free shipping on Shishi. Can you date such an innocent girl? How is this different from what you saw in the short video? Everyone watched the two chatting and laughing gradually walk away, all showing expressions that shocked their father for 100 years. The two came to a square in the park. Here is where they arranged the assembly in advance. Glancing at the time, it happened to be on time. In the square, a small group of people had gathered at this time. There are men and women, each with extraordinary appearance. Jong is here. Someone noticed Jong arrival and greeted him enthusiastically. Some people seemed to have noticed Lin Tien beside Jong and some people showed surprised expressions. Isn't this the famous Lin Tien? Someone joked. Hearing this, many people thought of the skipping incident on the playground a week ago. At that time, almost all the students in the school were watching in the class. Those were 7 or 8 people headed by the director, but they couldn't find them. Unexpectedly, the protagonist at that time was actually standing here. Damn it, you are Lin Tien. I have admired you for a long time. I am Long Mingzi from class 1. A classmate stepped forward and shook hands. I saw it in class before, but I didn't expect to meet him here today. The person who shook hands seemed to be Jong classmate, and he looked more refined with a pair of glasses. He looked at Jong and asked, Jong, do you know Lin Tien? We've known each other for a long time. He was getting bored at home, so I called him out. Jong generously admitted. Called from home? Long Mingzi asked seemingly casually. Our two families are neighbors. Jong replied. So that's how it is. Long Mingzi nodded. Then you are now. Before Jong could speak, Lin Tien patted his chest. That's right, it's exactly what you think. After finishing speaking, he looked at the other party, as if to say, brother, you understand me. What? When Long Mingzi heard the words, there was a deep disbelief on his face. He looked at Lin Tien again, as if to confirm whether the other party was joking. Lin Tien also nodded, confirming his thoughts. Unexpectedly, I didn't expect it, but this is only high school. Long Mingzi's voice was very low, full of shock. What happened in high school? Now I'm free. What are you talking about? Jong was looking at his phone just now, so he couldn't hear what the two of them were talking about just now. No, it's nothing. Long Mingzi sighed, looked at Jong with a wry smile and said, I didn't expect that you are actually in a master-servant relationship. Lin Tien, Jong several question marks appeared on the faces of the two of them at the same time. What kind of master-servant relationship is God? Dude, are you insane? This time it was Lin Tien's turn to show a surprised expression. It takes how many art plus animation movies to watch at home to make such a heaven-defying statement. What kind of master-servant relationship? Jong blushed up to her ears when she heard it. After pinching Lin Tien hard, she quickly explained, don't listen to his nonsense, we are neighbors. Yeah, Lin Tien nodded solemnly, the kind that can enter the house casually. Long Mingzi. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.